What's going on, party people? Welcome to another edition of the post-game show here at Irish Breakdown. I'm Vince D'Addario. That's Ryan Roberts, and we are going to talk about one of the most disappointing games in recent memory, as far as I'm concerned. It was just a failure of epic proportions, all across the board. It was just not good. It was not good at all, and we're going to talk about it. So, Ryan, this was the sad part for me. The sad part for me is that I'm not even mad. Like I've had 3.5 hours to get used to the fact that this probably wasn't going to go Notre Dame's way. And I think I got my anger out early, maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent. I'm disappointed. It is, we were kind of able to, what's the best way to put this? We were kind of able to, take some positives out of a potential 10-2 season, go to a New Year's Six, win it, whatever. And then now that's gone. So the floor of the season was 10-2 and now we're in the basement. So I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent. I'm kind of numb. I'm kind of all of those things. And here we are, Ryan.
Yeah. Vince, I think it's really well said. I was actually, when we were on the recruiting hour yesterday, I was talking to Sean about the game, and I think this has been pretty apparent all week, but I haven't felt confident about this game at all. I ended up picking Notre Dame to win, but there was a lot of doubt in my mind. I think even told to Sean yesterday, I was like, I'm worried about Phil Maffa running on Notre Dame. I'm worried about the ability to force turnovers, isn't incredibly sustainable. And I'm worried about the offense consistently doing well against a Clemson defense that still has a bunch of really good football players. And I think you're right. I mean, we were talking about before we started, I don't feel upset. I feel defeated, right? I watched that football game and I'm just from the beginning, man, I'm just like, dang, man, they just weren't ready to play. They just weren't ready to play. I mean, it's now happened multiple times. Well, not multiple times. It's happened every time in true road games now. Notre Dame has not been ready to play. I mean, you talk about what they did against Duke. You talk about what they did against Louisville a couple of weeks ago. They just haven't been prepared in road games for whatever reason. This was a disheartening game. I mean, honestly, there was very few positives that you can take from this football game because this was a game that on paper Notre Dame should have won. They were the more talented team. They were also the more healthy team than Clemson.
Oh my gosh.
Clemson was down so many guys.
Okay.
And yet, yes.
That was the turning point for me because look, I have always, obviously, I shouldn't say always, in the last 10 years, I have respected Clemson and what they've been able to do. 2 national titles in 7 years, all of it, right? So this was never going to be an easy game. But then you hear in all these reports, Shipley's out, the left side of the line is out, all of these guys are out because of injury. And it's like, okay, there's no way Notre Dame loses this game. I mean, this is a 4-4 team. Half their starters are out. It's felt like there's no way that they lose this game. There's just no way. They could come and play their B game and win it handily. I mean, cover the spread, all that stuff. And I think it was the injury part that really makes this one even tougher to swallow because this was not the best that Clemson even had. And at the end of the day, they didn't even play that well. Clemson didn't play that well. Notre Dame handed them the game in a lot of different ways and, allowed Jeremiah Trotter to play well, allowed a couple of these true freshmen on defense to play well, allowed this offensive line on the left side to push Notre Dame's defensive line around early on in the game and allow Phil Maffa to have almost 200 yards on the ground, which is ridiculous. And, Notre Dame allowed a lot of that to happen. Yes, Clemson has athletes. Clemson has good players, all of that. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, man, they were missing a ton of starters and Notre Dame wasn't. And they still got pushed around early on in this game.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I would kind of coin it like this, Vince. I mean, this was kind of the trajectory of this football game. And I'm excited to get down into offensively, defensively, the key moments and the issues and the slight positives in certain instances. I am excited to talk about that stuff. I mean, I think that you said it perfectly. Clemson obviously played a lot better than Notre Dame, but they also didn't play very well. I mean, I felt like Clemson, I'll put it like this. Clemson came out, they were the more physically imposing football team.
Absolutely.
Even though Notre Dame was able to run the ball early, I think you saw that like stuff was still kind of difficult, right? Like they went into a bear front on defense. Clemson were trying to shut down the run. Offensively, their offensive line that was down so many players was pushing Notre Dame around a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that there was halftime adjustments. Notre Dame had to settle for some field goals in that first half that kind of really set them behind. Notre Dame got back into the football game, but then I think at the end of the game, though, Vince, like I look at this and I say, Clemson out-athleted Notre Dame today, in my opinion. I think that was the biggest difference in the football game. It was that Notre Dame in space was not able to tackle, corral guys like Phil Maffa, make tackles in key spots against some of the wide receivers, Bo Collins. And defensively, I think that I think that Clemson was able to harass Sam Hartman at times. I think that the wide receivers for Notre Dame wasn't able to make a ton of separation in this football game. And I think that Sam Hartman once again was shell-shocked in this football game because he wasn't playing well. He was getting harassed. He was overthrowing footballs. He was underthrowing footballs. Like it was just a really bad game because I felt like for the first time the talent out. I felt like for the first time the skill position talent was just on a completely different level today. And I didn't expect that coming into the football game, but Clemson's athletes were much better than Notre Dame's athletes today, which we'll get into obviously as we break down a little bit further defensive and offensive. But Clemson tried to leave Notre Dame in this football game, man. They tried to give Notre Dame every opportunity to come back and get in this football game, tie it up, maybe take the lead at some points. And Notre Dame was not able to capitalize at any one of those situations. Right. So this is a failure, man. Coaching staff, players, this was a failure of a game. Failure.
Look, Clemson had the ball 6 times, starting with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. Every single one of those drives ended in a punt, and the last one ended in a fumble. I mean, they gave Notre Dame the opportunity to win this game on numerous occasions. Yes, it was a long field. I get it. But come on, man. Like, if you are a top-level offense, if you are an offense that is supposed to be playing for not championships, but, that's what we all want, right? And they couldn't put the ball consistently down the field when, given these opportunities. And so those 6 possessions, Notre Dame got the ball, and they punted it 4 times, threw an interception, and turned it over on downs on those 6 possessions. Like, I don't know what else you want. I mean, Clemson basically gift wrapped this game for Notre Dame, and they did nothing with it. And so as bad as they played all the way up until that point, one of those drives goes down and scores a touchdown. It's at the very least, it's a tie game. If you get the 2-point conversion, it's a tie game. You're going to overtime. Like, Clemson tried to give this game to Notre Dame. They tried with everything that they had to give this game to Notre Dame. And they just was like, nope, we're good. We want Dabo to be the all-time winningest coach at Clemson. We want to be here for that. It was just, it was failure of epic proportions across the board. And that's the biggest problem here.
Well, I would say this, Vince. I mean, there's ought to be a deep conversation about why does this keep happening on the road? And obviously my first thought process is that's a coaching preparation issue, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In this game, and I think you could look at a couple of the games so far that Notre Dame's lost. I would say that Notre Dame got thoroughly outcoached today. I would say that. I would say that Dabo Swinney and his staff got the better of Marcus Freeman and his staff through the entirety of this football game. I think Clemson was the more well-coached team today, and they were the more physical team and the team that played with the most fire today. I literally tweeted out like early in the game, I think it was like 17-6 at this point or something. Notre Dame was trailing. I'm just like, there's no juice, man. Like, who brings it? No one brings it. No one brought it in this game. There's been some games where some guys bring it, but like this was one of those games where I'm just like, I don't see it, man. I don't see a fire. It didn't seem like they wanted to be there. There were some guys that, honestly, I question the competitiveness of a couple of guys today in certain situations. I do question it, which is a terrible thing to say, but I'm watching some jogging in situations. I'm watching not fighting for contested footballs in some situations. It just, there's no urgency. There's no vigor to play the game. It was a very disheartening performance because I just didn't think Notre Dame was ready for this game for whatever reason. At the baseline, I just don't think they were prepared well enough.
Yeah, it was just not good, and it was that way from the opening kick. I mean, that's what it felt like. They were not ready to play this game. I think I think it was our text group or whatever. Somebody said, clearly this team needs to wake up, or so it was something along those lines. And it was early. It was like the second possession of the game. I mean, yeah, they were just not prepared and ready to play in this game.
Yep.
And I'm not really paying attention to the chat. I hope nobody's talking about the pants that they wore, and that would be like the reason that they lost. Or
Well, I thought it was dope. I thought the all
I
white
thought
was
I
spicy,
love.
man.
I mean,
I liked
everybody
it.
knows I love the white, and I thought the uniform choice was 2 thumbs
dope,
up.
yeah.
I really liked it. I really liked it. But of course they lost, and so now everybody's going to think that because of the pants that they wore, that's one of the reasons that they lost. But whatever.
Sure.
So big picture on this one, Ryan. Moving forward,
Yep.
Even with this effort, they should win against Wake and they should win against Stanford. I mean, that's
Sure.
and so you're looking at a 9-3 season. You're looking at the Pop-Tarts Bowl or whatever. It's just there's nothing. I don't want to say there's nothing left to play for, but if you were hoping to see Audric Estime and certain guys playing in the bowl game, like you can kiss that opportunity goodbye.
Vince, apparently we're not allowed to talk about the uniforms for like 10 seconds in the chat. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Let's get back to the game, Vince. Let's get back to the game.
Sorry. It was like a 10-second conversation. Sorry, everybody. But the big picture of this thing, and people are going to be like, well, what's left to play for? Why are we playing Sam Hartman at this point? Why don't we let Steve Angeli come and play? I mean, just wait for it, man. Especially the fact that we have a bye that we get to sit through. So we got 2 weeks to sit on this loss, and so we get to hear all about it. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of where things go, but there's a lot of soul searching that needs to be done in the Goog over the next 2 weeks, in my personal opinion.
Unfortunately, that the next 2 football games after the bye week aren't going to tell us anything about growth.
No,
they're not going to tell us anything. They're going to tell you that Notre Dame is much more talented than Wake Forest. And that's going to tell you, and also at home. And then they're going to tell you that Notre Dame is pissed off because they lost to Stanford last year. And they're also much more talented than Stanford.
And they'll beat Stanford by 50, whatever. And then,
I honestly, the last 2 games can tell you more negative than positive, in my opinion. Like if you beat those teams 50-0, it's like, okay, you should, right? Like they're not very good football teams. But if you go out and you have a little bit of a struggle against Wake Forest and win, and you let Stanford hang around for a half, it's like, dude, like it just reaffirms that like there's issues here, right? And I think that overall, because we'll get into this a lot more off-season, guys. I mean, we will. But there's a fundamental issue with this football team, obviously, and there needs to be an identity shift, or there needs to be decisions that are made, or something needs to happen. Whatever you're doing right now is not working. Clearly, especially on the road. It's especially not working on the road. So you need to have, in this offseason, you need to have take a step back. Let's have a legitimate conversation over, look, this is what we're doing that we like, and this is what's not working though. And we need to figure out a fix for it. And what that fix is, spend a lot of time talking about this offseason as far as what the potential fixes could be, right? We'll do that. But for this game, more than anything, just showed you that, and especially offensively, Vince, and I know we'll talk about this on offense, in a minute here, but there are obvious flaws with this football team that a couple victories have hidden from this team, in my opinion, right? You destroy USC 48-20. You dominate Pittsburgh 58-7, but I don't think that anybody left that football game and said, but there's still some things that have been lingering that are still there, though. Like, they're still there. We're not going to fully ignore that they're not there anymore. So that's a conversation that needs to happen. For this game, I just think that the same blemishes that we've known that Notre Dame's had, and the warts that have been there that maybe have been masked by a couple good wins back-to-back, they're still there, guys. They're still there. And we have to talk about them. And that's what this show is for, is that, again, we'll talk about the small good that came out of individual performances. Like, Audric Estime was great today, right? Like, he was really good, in my opinion. Xavier Watts, again, was fantastic for the 5th straight game now. There's still some positives as far as individual performances, but overall, the baseline of this program, there's fundamental flaws and fundamental issues that need to be talked about.
All right, I think that's about as good a segue as you're going to find. Let's jump into the offense because I think, as rough as it was defensively early for Notre Dame, I mean, they settled in and like I said, they forced Clemson to punt the ball 5 out of the last 6 drives, and the other one was a fumble recovery. So, I mean, the defense played well enough to win. So, we have to look at, okay, when, the last game scored touchdowns on all 3 phases, right? So, we got 3 phases to talk about. Well, defense played well enough to win. The other 2 phases, special teams, offense, they didn't play well enough to win the game. Period. End of discussion. You can't muff a punt. I don't care about the sun. You can't muff a punt down deep in your own territory. And even though they only went down and scored 3 points,
yep,
they still scored 3 points. Like you can't do that. Not only did you take away an opportunity from yourself, but you gave them an opportunity to put points on the board, right? And so if those 3 points didn't exist, well, now it's a 5-point game at the end. And, so things are different. You're calling, it's just a different scenario. So special teams, not good. The coverage teams weren't all that great. They allowed some returns in this game. Spencer Schrader hit all of his field goals. Awesome.
He did.
That's great. You hit all 3 of your field goals. I believe it was 3.
So he's 13 for 18 on the season, Vince, which means he's now over 70%. So, now we can start talking about Spencer a little bit now, right? We can start talking about him a little bit now. It's good.
Every field goal that he had was right down the middle. I mean, there was no, sneaking it in. Those were all legit, still going up when they crossed. So, I mean, he did what he was supposed to do. But wouldn't we have liked touchdowns there instead of field goals? Obviously. So, moving into the offense, let's talk game plan to start. So,
okay.
I know you have a lot of opinion on the game plan, so I'm going to give the floor to you on how you feel the game plan went. And I want to be clear. So, game plan is different than play calling as well. So, to me, one was decent, one was bad. That's how I look at it. I think the game plan was good enough to win the game. It wasn't great, but it was good enough to win the game.
Sure.
Play calling, it was a bit of a different discussion as far as I'm concerned. And then, of course, the execution by the quarterback was atrocious. So it's 3 levels of offensive talk here. So I'll let you kind of take the floor here for what you saw offensively.
Well, I first and foremost, I liked how the run game got outgoing, right? I liked because structurally what Clemson was trying to do, Vince, is that they said, you're not running the ball on us. So they came out with in a bear front. They were covering the center and both guards, and they ran a 5-man front, and they were like, you're not going to run the football on us. And so what they did is that they loaded up interior 3 guys in, basically responsible for 2 gaps, basically, the AA gaps. And what Notre Dame did, and I thought this was very smart of Jared Parker and this offensive staff, they said, we are going to hit off tackle a little bit more early on in this football game.
It was a wash and a kick, and it was lots of yards to start off with.
And it worked, man. I mean, they were running the football well, and they ran the football pretty much throughout the entirety of the football game. It was really nice to see, right? The problem is that obviously when you got behind, you are less, the ability to run the football becomes less and less as far as the volume of that perspective side of the offense. But offensively, I thought that they ran the football really well early on. I thought the offensive line came out and battled. I thought they actually looked pretty good on the move a ton too when they were trying to get to the second level and getting out in space a little bit too. So I think that they offensively came out and had a good plan of running the football. My main issue with this offense that I was talking about in the chat with you guys, obviously, is that this passing attack, one, I very much dislike, and this from a play calling perspective. I hate, and I put this on Twitter twice at this point over the last couple of weeks. I hate the refusal to throw the football in early downs. Hate it. Yeah. Guys, it's a very conservative approach, right? Throwing the football on first down sometimes off of play action, you loosen things up a little bit. You spare predictability on early downs, which is great. If you're playing against Notre Dame on first down and even second down, you probably know what's coming, right? You know that it's going to be some type of running play, usually.
Right.
The thing that drives me even more crazy, though, is I think there was 1 2nd and 10 where they threw the football today. I think after the game got a little bit out of hand, though. But on 2nd and 10, it's like an automatic run in this offense. Why? Why on 2nd and 10 is it always an auto run in this offense? I don't understand that.
Right.
I put on, and this was a little bit hyperbolic, but I put on during the Pitt game that slight shot, right? That running the football on 2nd and 10 is for cowards, right? Which is slightly joking, but not fully joking because it's so conservative, man. Because then what happens, Vince? You put yourself into a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6. Instead of, hey, maybe we get 7, 8 passing the football a little bit more. Either way, it's going to be 3rd and long, most likely, regardless of that. But I think passing the ball in 2nd and 10 gives you a much better opportunity to be in the 3rd and short situations that you want to be as an offensive staff. I believe that wholeheartedly. There's data that supports that. So, it's just my belief, right? Just my general belief. Passing game wise, this offensive passing attack, and we could talk about the issues that are around here, right? Sam Hartman has not been good. Hasn't been good. He's been inaccurate. He has been late to some things, and he has been overthrowing and underthrowing balls. And he's also not always trusting what he's seeing and letting the trigger loose. He's doing that a lot. But it's not just a Sam Hartman issue, right? It's not. And if anybody says this is all on Sam Hartman or this is all on one player, I disagree, and I disagree to the highest of levels. This is a full course issue. One, passing game schematically, I think it's incredibly stagnant. I think it's static. I don't think there's a lot of movement involved. I don't think there's much creativity. Vince, what's the best play that Notre Dame ran today in the passing game? Mesh. I'm looking at mesh and I'm like, wow, mesh, how creative. No, it's not. You run that on the high school level. Mesh is not creative at all. It is the most basic route concepts of all time. It's just 2 crossing routes, guys. That's all it is. And it's basic. You pick off man coverage. Cool. It should be in your offense, but that shouldn't be the biggest creative moment of an offensive passing a game during the game. It's like, wow, they ran mesh. Cool, dude. Everyone runs mesh. I literally used to run mesh when I was a high school football coach. I used to run mesh when I was a junior high football coach. It's not creative. It's not. This offensive passing attack is poorly designed. It's stagnant. Yes, there's a conservative approach to how Notre Dame plays offense right now, but that's not an excuse for the offensive play calling to not be creative as well. There's no excuse to that because there are some. I would say Utah is a conservative offense, but you know what Andy Ludwig does really well? He designs things to get things open in one-on-one matchups and makes guys look better than their perceived talent. I don't think there's a lack of talent on Notre Dame right now offensively. I don't. I think there's a lack of creativity, especially in the passing game. Wide receivers in these static routes, this boring passing attack are also not creating enough separation. They are not doing a good enough job of winning some one-on-one opportunities, in my opinion. So you have a 3-prong issue right now, mostly. 1, wide receivers aren't getting open. 2, quarterback isn't trusting what he's seeing. 3, the passing game is super boring and super basic, and it's not creative at all. So this is an issue, passing game especially, man. The passing game is the biggest issue in this offensive attack. It needs to change. There needs to be some type of fix. See, people keep talking about it, right, Vince? Sam Hartman's a big bust, right? Everyone's throwing it on Hartman. Sam Hartman, if you watched him at Wake Forest, was a completely different person than what he is right now as a football player. Why is that? Is that fully a Sam Hartman issue? Not a chance. Not a chance. You think Sam Hartman went from Wake Forest to South Bend, Indiana, and was like, you know what? I'm going to completely change the way I play football. Nah, dude. Nah. There is an issue there of things that he's being asked to do and the offense of how it's structured. Sam needs to blame that for what it is. Underthrows, inaccuracies in the offense that he is running, but they're still not allowing him to be the player that he was early on in his career that helped him throw for 110 career touchdown passes coming into this season. There is an issue offensively, and it's especially on the passing game perspective, in my opinion.
I agree with most everything that you said, but I have to put more blame on Sam Hartman. Now, I'm not saying it's all his fault. I'm not saying that at all, because I agree with you that the passing game design is not good. But I will say that there are guys getting open, but he's not throwing them the football. And in this ridiculously stagnant offense, and I agree with you wholeheartedly in the passing game on that. There's no debate. There's no debate. The problem is Sam Hartman doesn't trust some of the guys that are out there playing for him now, whether that's a systemic problem because they're not practicing, because, they're just not making plays in practice, or I don't know the answer to that, but it's very clear he refuses to throw the ball or look towards certain guys on this team. And sometimes those guys are open. When you watch the all 22, and I know you do, Ryan, these guys are getting open. Now, could they be getting open more? Could they have better routes? Could they be getting off press a little bit better? Absolutely. I will not argue that. But they're getting open enough that Sam Hartman needs to find them and work his way through his progressions like he was doing earlier on in the season. It was the same offense early in the season that it is now. It's the same offense, same offensive coordinator, and you could see him working his way through his progressions, finding the open man. Didn't matter who it was. He was throwing to 10, 12 receivers a game. We were just singing his praises, and he's taking a step back. Now, is that coaching? Is that offensive philosophy? What is it? He's not playing well, period. He's not playing well. How many errant throws did he have? He was an under 50% passer today. It was bad. It was really, really bad. He had the worst game of his Notre Dame career today, in my opinion. It was bad. Now, with that being said, there's things you can do as an offensive coordinator to help out a quarterback who is struggling.
Right.
There's things you can do, right? And I don't think those things are being done. I don't.
Yes.
But he needs to play better, because in this particular game, in a nutshell, because I agree that it is a three-pronged problem with the offense. I agree with that. In this particular game, right, there were plays to be made that could have been made by Sam Hartman, and they would have won the game. They would have won the game. That's how I feel.
That's fair. I'm just, because I don't disagree with that, Vince. I do think that there were some plays that were on the table. I just don't think that they are maximized enough as an offense. I don't think that you make things easy for this offense ever. I understand that there was probably some plays where Tobias Merriweather was open today. I'm sure there were some plays where Rico Flores was open today. I'm sure that those plays exist, right? I'm sure they do. But all I'm saying is that I think that it's never one thing, in my opinion, right? Like we're always,
I agree.
And I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm just saying as a fan base, because I read the chat before we even started the show, right? I'm like, you cannot just place the blame on Sam Hartman today.
Agreed.
He was not the only issue.
And here's the other problem. I don't mean to cut you off, Ryan, but here's the other problem. Notre Dame, the way they're calling the offense, the way the offense is put together, these third downs are way too high leverage because of the way they're calling first and second down, right? And it's whether it's third and short or not, it more often than not, I feel like it's third and long. And I'm sure there's a stat out there where we could find what the average third down distance was. But I guarantee
I know they were like 2 for 11 on third down today, or something like that. Something gross.
But those third downs are so high leverage because of what they're doing on first and second down, and I think that gets lost in the stats and the analysis and all of that. It's like I was talking to a high school coach not that long ago, and he starts talking about how first down is the most important down. Like what you do on first down is going to dictate what you do moving forward. And I just feel like first down is taken. It's not important at Notre Dame. Like first down doesn't matter. It's a throwaway down. Like that's what it feels like. And that's frustrating to me as somebody who really loves offense and wants to see an offense be better. It just feels like first down is a throwaway down. Second down's like, well, let's try to make this third and manageable. And now you've put way too much pressure on third down. And more often than not, they're not doing anything with third down. So I just feel like they're putting Sam Hartman in too of a high leverage situation on down and distance, and he's not coming through either. So there's ways to help your players, okay, have it not be as high leverage of a situation, Right. How about you not even get to third down? How about that?
And that was something that I talked about a little bit, Vince, and I think you're 100% spot on, is the fact that offenses, you're setting the table for success for a drive on first down. That's why first downs are important. And for Notre Dame because guys, look, like this is my biggest thing about it. Notre Dame right now is a conservative offense. They are. They don't want to go fast.
Agreed.
They want to be, they want to be just kind of
They,
slow
they weren't even
churn.
going
And
fast with 3 minutes left to go in the game. When you're down by a possession, they're still huddling up.
Vince, they had 40 something seconds before the first half was over. All timeouts were still on the table, or
And
they had,
nothing.
I think they had all timeouts, and it was about to be 3rd and 14.
Yes.
And they were like, nah, we'll go to the half.
And let me ask you something, Ryan, because
yes.
because earlier on in the season, Marcus Freeman's calling timeout there and he said this because he has so much faith in the offense and Sam Hartman. Do you think Marcus Freeman has lost his faith in the offense?
Man, that's such a tough question, man. I wish
I'm asking you to put yourself in his shoes, obviously, but that's what I first thought. That's the first thing that came to mind for me.
Yes, probably. I mean, to your question, yeah, probably. He probably has a lack of confidence in offense right now. I push back on that so much, the thought process of it, because you're down 24-9. You gave up 24 points. Your defense has been great all year, but it wasn't playing great in the first half, and they given up 17 points, and plus obviously the pick 6 to boot. So dude, you are struggling to get juice as an offense. So in my mind, I'm like, that's a no-brainer. I was literally you could ask my wife. I was sitting there, she was watching the game with me and my kids, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, timeout. I'm acting it out, and then I'm like, they're not calling a timeout there? You have all 3 timeouts left.
Right.
All 3 timeouts. I don't understand. You have, and I know Chris Tyree fumbled the ball off his helmet the first part of the game today, but he also did break one 80-something yards last week, right? So it's make them punt to him again. Maybe he gets something out of it, but regardless, you still have 40 seconds with 2 timeouts, and not to mention, clock stops under 2 minutes for first downs as well in the half. That for me was a very defeatist approach, in my opinion.
Yes.
Again, I think it goes back to there's a very conservative approach for this offense, but I think structurally when we're talking about this offensive play calling perspective, yes, it's going to be conservative the rest of the year. There's no doubt. They're not going to be high octane, up tempo, changing pace. They're not going to do that stuff. But there's offenses that do that and are still very good because they're still creative, right? You're not running at a great pace on 2nd and 5, but you're calling a great play, right? You're calling a really creative play that's going to get guys open. That's my push, that's the push right now. Creativity in this offense is it's not good right now, man. It's not good. I mean, again, when I'm watching basic stuff being the best plays of a drive, the best plays of the game, that's an issue. That's an issue because I'm that's not creative, but that's your best play by far right now. There's an offensive issue right now from a structural play calling perspective, in my opinion. Whether that is Marcus Freeman being too conservative up top and trickling down, whether that's actually just the offensive coordinator, Jared Parker, in general, I don't know 100% where that issue is coming from, but it is an issue, and we need to be able to call it an issue because it is an issue right now. It is.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a massive issue, and that at this point, we can talk about. I mean, it's not going to change this season. I mean, we can all agree on that. We're not going to just keep banging our heads against the wall, hoping that something different is going to change. Notre Dame is not going to all of a sudden run Washington's offense or run Oregon's offense. It's not going to happen this year, right? And so this is an off-season issue that needs to be corrected. It needs to be fixed. And whether that's a change at offensive coordinator, a change in philosophy, a change in whatever, a change needs to be made because this offense is not going to win you a championship. It's just not. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I just don't have a lot of faith in the way this offense is put together that you're going to be able to consistently score 40 points or more. I just don't, And when I get the feeling as a fan watching the game and they're consistently getting the ball inside the 10-yard line, you're like, well, there's no way they're going to go 90 plus yards. It's just not going to happen, And I'm like, man, we got to flip the field.
They kept getting the ball back at the end of the game. And I'm like, I don't even know why I'm watching this. They're not going to, nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. I knew it wasn't going to happen. I knew in my mind it wasn't going to happen because the offense was just stagnant and boring and predictable and not good today. It wasn't good.
Just wasn't good. And I agree. It
And
wasn't good.
the fault of it too, Vince, is that I believe, and this is my opinion, as we're kind of talking positions now,
Yes.
is that I didn't think the offensive line was terrible today. I
I
really
agree.
didn't. I think run blocking wise, they were pretty good. I think Blake Fisher struggled immensely in pass protection today, and I think that Clemson had a couple free blitzers today. And I also think that the running backs struggled in pass protection today, picking up those blitzes. But I think for the most part, the offensive line pretty well, and yet
They
the
averaged
offense did not
5.9
structure
yards,
well.
5.9 yards a carry. Like,
Yeah,
I okay. I'm actually okay with that. I mean,
yeah,
I realize there were a couple of long runs in there for Sam Hartman to help offset that a little bit, but 5.9 yards a carry, yeah, I'll take it. Like I did not really have an issue with the run blocking. I really
no,
didn't. There were a couple times, obviously, in pass protection where Zeke got put on skates. Obviously that wasn't good. The hold by Fisher, obviously not good. There were a couple of things, of course, but overall, again, I like to reserve judgment on the offensive line until I get to watch the game back again because I can
sure,
actually focus on what's going on inside the box.
yeah,
But with the way, I mean, you also have to, tip your cap a little bit to Clemson and what they were trying to do defensively against this offensive line. I thought the offensive line handled themselves pretty well when it's
right,
all said and done. So
yeah,
I liked what I saw live. We'll see how that materializes when we watch the game back. Um, you know, Running back wise, it was obviously the Audric Estime show. There were a couple of
yes.
cameos by the rest of the running back room, but they didn't really. I mean, look, running Love right up the middle. That's just not his game. So that's super
It's so
frustrating to me. But
Vince. So they were like, "Cool, man. We got some stuff going. We got stuff working off tackle with Audric, right?" And it was
yeah,
great. Audric's a stud.
yep,
And then they're like, "Let's put our most explosive runner and just run him straight downhill every single play."
right. That was super frustrating. Like that's borderline criminal. Like that's
Right.
that's that's football criminal, in my opinion. But they continue to do it, and like I said, so the other running backs had a little bit of a cameo: 3 carries for 11 yards for Jeremiah Love, 1 for
Yep.
6 for Jabron Payne, and 2 for 5 for Jadarian Price. So,
Yep.
but again, Audric Estime, 17 for 87, a touchdown, long of 25, 5.1 yards a carry. Like that's an Audric Estime type of game, but
Yep.
you need to be able, again, this is an offensive philosophy situation, but you need to be able to
Sure.
complement him with what
Yep.
he's doing, with what these other guys are doing. They're not all the same back. And I feel like their running game is structured in such a way that they are, I know it's the same guy. We're just going to do the same thing. We're going to give Audric a blow and we're going to run the same exact thing. We're going to run him between the tackles. So that's frustrating, but that's been a problem
Yeah.
all year. I mean, that's not a
Yeah.
new thing.
I mean, just based upon what I saw live, and again, you're absolutely correct that the all 22 will tell the tale of the offensive line. Seemed like the offensive line for the most part played well. I thought Zeke Correll struggled a lot before he went into concussion protocol, and I think Blake Fisher had a tough time in pass protection today. I thought he was pretty bad in pass protection. Otherwise, like it seemed like Rocco had a pretty good game, at least just off of live broadcast for a second. It seemed like Pat Coogan was pretty good for the most part. I thought Ashton Craig came in and handled his own after Andrew Kristofic went down too. So I thought Craig played pretty well. And I never noticed Joe Alt ever except when it's something good. Him working in
Yeah.
space or something where you're just like, yep, he's a really good football player, man. So
Yeah. Right.
that's yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, run game wise, good. Running backs picking up a blitz, that appeared to be a bit of an issue. I don't know if that was more of a Jeremiah Trotter issue, or if that was, I mean, obviously both of those guys were in the right place at the right time, but they duck
Yes.
their head and they lose him. I mean, it's a nice move by Trotter, don't get me wrong, but he was
Yeah.
able to make 2
Oh,
pretty big plays, there.
Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is a really good college football player, man, which shouldn't be a surprise if anybody saw his father, who was the
Sure.
Axeman in the NFL. He was a really good football player. Actually went to Stephen F. Austin. Vince, a little
Mm.
bit of weird trivia for you there, but I almost said Jerome Bettis Jr. because Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is a good football player who made Jabron Payne look bad on one rep. I think he got Aldrich on the other one. Was
He
it
got
Aldrich that he
Aldrich,
got on the
yeah.
second one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Payne struggled in pass protection. Aldrich didn't have many pass protection reps, it didn't seem, but he obviously got on one specifically. So yeah, running back pass pro was not good. The linebackers definitely had their way with the Notre Dame running backs in pass pro today.
Yeah, not great. But again, those were the two glaring ones. Obviously, we'd have to go back and look and see if there was anything else, good or bad in that regard. I guess my biggest issue is Jabron Payne is literally in their third down to pass protect. Like that's his whole job description, man. You got to come through. I mean, that you got to be the guy on that. So, tight end wise, obviously, this was interesting in the fact that how are they going to replace Mitchell Evans? Right. Lots of movement, man, with the tight ends. You had Stays, you had Flanagan. I mean,
Eli Raridan.
Eli Raridan. I mean, it was the three of those guys kind of rotating through. At one point Sherwood was in. I think they went 14 personnel at one point when they were on the goal line. It felt like I'm not 100% sure, but I remember seeing Sherwood in there on the goal line when they couldn't punch it in. Tight ends, I feel like they played well, in what they were asked to do.
I feel like the blocking was pretty good. I don't know. Holden Stays frustrated me a couple times in this football game. I felt like the compete level wasn't fantastic consistently for him, but I think overall, like Cooper Flanagan and Eli Raridan seemed to block well, and that's all they were asked to do today. So, I think they did their job. I would agree there.
Yeah. And then, we kind of talked about the wide receivers a little bit. I thought, Jordan Faison appeared to have a good game when they finally decided to play him in the second half.
Man, I thought he was going to get a lot more on that jet that he had near the goal line. I feel like I think it was Holden Stace needs to be able to just seal that a little bit better on. I think it was Andrew Makuba that made that tackle, and I was like, man, I thought he could have had like 20-ish plus yards on that play, but it's still really good play by Faison. Really good play Faison.
It's funny that you say that because on the screen to Tyree to the short side of the field, it was also a Holden Stays problem because he should not have tried to double team the corner. He should have seen the safety coming down in the alley. If he picks up that safety, Tyree might still be running.
I had an issue with him on, was it the Rico Flores 35-yard gain? I believe he also didn't see someone coming from inside out, and I'm just like,
because he was running with
your head up, man. Get your head up.
Let the guy go right by him, and he's the guy that ends up making the tackle. So you're absolutely right. It was him.
Perimeter blocking was not good enough today in general, in my opinion. Like, I think that Jaden Greathouse did a really nice job on the Sam Hartman touchdown run. That was a great block downfield. I think there were a couple good blocks, but like that one that you're talking about, I actually loved that screen to Chris Tyree early in the football game to the boundary side in that 3-by-1 because Clemson was late to making an adjustment there. So they actually had numbers into the boundary. Yeah. They blocked the outside guy. I don't know who the outside receiver was, but they had him walled off.
They doubled him for some reason.
Yeah. For whatever reason, Holden Stace thought 2 for 1 was better than 1 for 1 in that situation. Yeah. I don't know what he was thinking there, but man, he I think that play could have gone for at least a first down, if not for that blunder by Holden Stace.
No, I agree completely. And as I've coached wide receivers many times, and he's considered a wide receiver when he's split out like that, it's most dangerous. You've got to block most dangerous, and it was very obvious that the alley player coming from the safety position was the most dangerous. You've got to be able to see that. You got to be able to recognize that pre-snap. And
that kid had a fantastic game, by the way. I mean, we're always going to give positivity to Clemson right here because they won the football game. Andrew Makuba was a dude today for Clemson, the safety number 1. He had a really good football game, man. Yeah, but Notre Dame didn't help. Notre Dame allowed him to have a great football game, which is the frustrating part, too. Obviously.
Yeah, that's fair too. They allowed a lot of no-name guys, at least who have not made names for themselves over at Clemson, to make names for themselves over on the defensive side of the football. And we've already talked about Sam Hartman. We can dig in a little bit more, I suppose, but he just didn't play well. I mean, he didn't play well. I'll read his stat line just for, S's and G's. 13 for 30, 146 yards, 2 picks, 43% completion percentage, a 70.9 rating. They even said in the broadcast he's got 7 interceptions over his last 4 games. I mean, he just hasn't played well the second half of the season. Just hasn't played well, and it's culminated into a pretty bad performance today. Obviously, ran the ball pretty well. He had those 2 big long runs, which were really key. One was for a touchdown, one was for a big first down, obviously. I thought he did a good job with those, but he's
Yep.
just, whether he's unwilling, whether he is scared, whether he is just not believing in his targets, whatever the case may be, and only Sam Hartman can explain what that is, he's just not throwing the ball with any kind of confidence right now. That's my biggest issue. He's not throwing with confidence.
Yeah. He actually did some really nice stuff, obviously, as a runner today, right? Like,
yes, absolutely.
The funniest play was because I initially thought it was a quarterback draw, but then once Brian said something about it and they showed the playback, I think Sam Hartman was just like, there's nobody in the middle of the field, so I'm just going to take off here and get 38 yards or whatever the heck he got on this first run. And then a great touchdown run in the game, too. I mean, he did some good stuff on the run today, but passing was rough. I mean, it was rough. I mean, Vince, I think you said it perfectly. And like, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but underthrows, bad decisions, late on out routes for a pick 6 to Jeremiah Trotter. Or actually, it wasn't even an out route. It was just like a curl, I think.
Well, and I mean, he stared it down too. Like his head.
Well, he almost threw another one.
Yes.
He almost threw another one to Holden Stace. I think it was Khalil Barnes that almost intercepted that one. That one was on an out route.
It was Holden Stace both times, by the way.
Yeah, man. So he just wasn't good today. He was bad. He was bad today. And the thing is that, because again, I don't think it's a full Sam Hartman problem, but Sam Hartman would also say that he played very badly today, right? Like, we're not saying anything that's like breaking news or controversial. He was bad today. He did not play well. He was inaccurate. He was late to a lot of things, and he didn't trust his eyes consistently.
Yeah.
That's the negatives.
It's frustrating. I'm sure for him as well, looking back on it, but it's frustrating as a fan, as an analyst, whatever. I don't remember seeing that many balls on the ground, and I don't remember seeing that many balls just completely errant, off target, I guess is the best way to put it. So whether like a couple of them, maybe they were miscommunications with the wide receivers, maybe, I don't know. But at the same time, it's like, this is game 10. You shouldn't be having miscommunications with your receivers at this point. I don't get it. It was bad. It was not good.
One play that really stuck out to me too, Vince, I forget if it was in the first or second quarter, but Jaden Greathouse was on the outside, and it was just like a vertical route outside, and it was a third down. And Sam threw it to Jaden, but threw it out of bounds on this play. And I'm just like, why not give him a shot, man? Why not give him a chance? It's third down anyway, right? Like, you're already losing. Why not give him a shot? Like, I understand that Tobias is a guy that's like let you down in some of those 50-50 situations at times. I know Rico Flores has been a guy that has let you down a couple of times early on his career, obviously, in those 50-50 situations. But Jaden's never gotten a chance to do it. Why isn't that trust there? I mean, maybe it's a practice issue. Maybe it's an injury issue. I don't know, man. But all I know is, again, not to beat the dead horse, but Sam Hartman wasn't good today. Sam Hartman was bad today. That's just
just missed some open guys, and even sometimes when he threw it to those guys, the ball was short, the ball was off target, like the pocket throw to Faison. I mean, he's open. It was a cover 2 beater, and he beat it. And you got to get that ball to him. You got to get the ball to him, and he underthrew it. Probably should have been picked off, to be honest with you. And
despite the fact that I don't think the wide receivers played well, there were still some glimmers of positivity, right? Jordan Faison is a very pleasant surprise. I think the kid can play.
Sure.
Like, I think he could play. I mean, they got it to him in space, and he created a nice little run after catch. I was like, that's impressive, man. That's not a walk-on right there. Yeah, that's not a walk-on. I think that he is going to be a good football player for Notre Dame long term. I think Jordan Faison was a great find as a preferred walk-on that is now a scholarship player. I think that was a great one.
Yeah.
I think that Rico shows you some good stuff at times. I think that he's a freshman, man. There are some inconsistencies for him being a younger guy, and then he'll make a nice play occasionally, which is what's to be expected for a true freshman. There are, though, however, some wide receivers that you need something from a man, and there needs to be something. I don't know what it is, but for as talented as Tobias Merriweather is, like that last opportunity, Vince, that fell a little bit short of him. It wasn't a good throw, guys. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that Sam Hartman made a good throw on that ball, but efforts. Come back. Try to make a play on the ball. I don't understand why it's just a lack of competitiveness at times for Tobias Merriweather right now. I don't know if that's a mental block. I'm not 100% sure, but there's a lack of competitiveness, especially to finish through the air and to come back for the football consistently. Wasn't good. Jaden Greathouse, I think the guy's just hurt, to be honest. I think he's hurt. I don't think he's getting a lot of opportunities right now. We know Jaden Thomas was obviously limited on the sideline. You were talking about like you saw him with his helmet off, and I don't even know if he played at all in this game. So there's a couple positivities in the wide receiver room, but for the most part, I just think the wide receivers leave a lot to be desired, especially today.
Yeah, it's bad. And the other problem I think that I have with the whole situation is that, they're putting too much pressure on freshmen at wide receiver. I just, you've got Rico out there, you got Greathouse out there, and they're out there all the time. And I just feel like, is that really how you want to operate with your freshmen? I don't know. I don't know. I don't like the fact that they're out there all the time. Like, they need to be in there in spurts where they can go make plays, and the pressure is not as much on them all the time. So I guess that's my biggest issue as far as, again, it's a systemic issue. It's an offensive systemic issue. It's not their fault. They're going to play when the coach tells them to play, but I just don't like that they're putting that much pressure on freshmen. I think that they can spread the wealth a little bit more.
Yeah, especially if a guy's not playing well, you need to find a different answer, right? I mean, because what happens, Vince, is like some freshmen, and I'm sure Jaden Greathouse will be this way, and I'm sure Rico Flores will be this way too. Some freshmen can deal with the struggles and get out on the other side and play through the fire, right? And can be that mentally tough person. But then some other freshmen, and again, I'm not saying who is and who isn't this person, but sometimes when you're thrown into the fire too early, you struggle and you get a mental block and you have a tough time really being able to get onto the other side, right? Yeah. So I definitely think that there is, obviously, if the freshmen are your best players, if that's who you to be, sure. But if they're struggling and not playing well, then you're putting in guys in position that they maybe just shouldn't be in right now.
I just don't feel like they are playing to the level that they need to be out there all the time. And I'm not necessarily knocking those guys, but they make freshman mistakes. They're still freshmen. That's just, they don't need to be putting that kind of pressure on them. I'll just leave it at that. So,
sure.
Offensively overall, obviously 3 phases of the game, that was one of them, and it wasn't good. It just wasn't good all around. And I think we've outlined the many reasons that is the case. Brian and I will dive into the film. Obviously, Ryan will as well for when he's on the shows later on this week, and we'll talk about it. But it just not a good showing by the offense. Period. End of discussion. Bad. And again, the game plan was good enough to win, but you've got to execute it. And there was just some execution issues, and it wasn't great. It just wasn't great, and it led to plenty of opportunities towards the end of the game, and you didn't take any of them. And that's the biggest issue. That's my biggest takeaway. So let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball. Ryan, not a great start by the defense. I thought that, Clemson schemed around Notre Dame's pressures pretty well early, especially on that first touchdown run. I mean, it was the perfect call. Based on that, they saw the tendency when when Clemson went in motion, Notre Dame would blitz. They ran right into it, and DJ Brown took a bad path, and they scored a touchdown because there was nobody behind them at that point.
Yes,
and that's what happens when you have a safety blitz, right? So, I thought Clemson had a good scheme to start off with. They did a good job. I thought Notre Dame settled in after a while. Again, last 6 drives of the game, Notre Dame defense forced 5 punts and a fumble. Like, what more could you ask for? Now, they gave up too much early. They gave up 21 total points. The defense gave up 7, and the muff punt ended up giving up 3. And that's a credit to the defense for holding them to 3 points. It could have been, 7 at that point. So, again, the defense didn't play like they played the last 2 games, right? But they played well enough to win this game. And so that's my overall takeaway from the defense. What's your overall takeaway from the D?
I thought there were halftime adjustments. There was a lot that I didn't love early. I think that we need to remember that a part of the 31 points in the end was a pick six, obviously. I think from a coverage perspective, was pretty good mostly. Like Cam Hart, I think kind of just panicked a little bit down the field and on the pass interference to Bo Collins. I felt like a couple of the corners just in general were a little bit grabby, but Benjamin Morrison had a lot of great moments in this football game. Thought Xavier Watts played a good football game overall. I thought that the defensive line battled for the most part. I thought second level was incredibly inconsistent, though. And I mean, Notre Dame got gashed in the run game for a large portion of the game today against Phil Maffa. And I thought that was the biggest difference for me. Vince, was the game that I thought Notre Dame was going to be able to control a little bit was the run game for Clemson. I thought that Notre Dame front four combined with the linebackers was going to be able to take over a injured and underwhelming offensive line with Phil Maffa as, again, a good running back, but he wasn't even their starting running back. And I thought they were going to be able to overwhelm them a little bit in the run game, at least win that matchup. And Clemson won that matchup. Like, that was the biggest, I think, negative to the defense today, was that you did not stop the run well today at all. You were not good in that department. Again, still, you gave up 24 points. And I think that Notre Dame should have had the opportunity to win a game today that they gave up 24 points. But the defense was still not great early, better in the second half, only gave up one scoring drive in the second half. But overall, it was a below average day, obviously, for what we've seen from this defense this year.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't the defense that we all expected. I mean, I went into this game with a lot of confidence in the defense. It's why I picked the score the way that I picked it, because regardless of my lack of confidence in the offense, I figured the defense was going to come to play. And again, they played well enough, but well enough wasn't good enough. I mean, bottom line, well enough wasn't good enough. And if we're gonna heap the negative talk towards the offense, we have to heap some of the negative talk towards the defense. I mean, the defensive line early on in the game got pushed around by 2/5 of an offensive line that hasn't played. I mean, the left side of the line were backups, right? I mean, and Clemson's offensive line isn't even all that great overall. And
it was injured. And it was injured. Vince.
Yeah.
Like, it was also not their main offensive line that they want to put out.
They got pushed around. They got pushed around early. I mean, if the defense plays the way they did the last two games, we're having a completely different conversation, obviously. Okay. But again, they played well enough to win. The offense didn't take control of the game when they needed to. It's just the way this team is put together right now, the defense has to play very, very well in order for the team to win a high level type of game. And regardless of what Clemson's record was, this was a high level game in a hostile territory, all of those different things. Defense didn't come out and play great early. They settled down, but the damage was done, so to speak. You know what I mean? And we're talking big picture defense right now. I've given, Al Golden a lot of credit this year, and rightfully so. I thought he's done a really good job with this defense overall. I still don't understand why on the touchdown drive that Clemson had, where they basically threw the ball down the field, big pick, and then end up, scoring the touchdown on a pass. Why the entire backup secondary was in the game at that time.
In a crucial moment in the game.
I have a problem with that, man. Like, I love Jaden Mickey, and I love the freshmen and all of that, but man, you've got two All-America caliber corners on your team, and neither one of them was in the game. Now, Brian said that he thought that Benjamin Morrison might have come up a little lame, and maybe that's why he was out. Okay. Put in his backup. Bring Cam Hart back in, and bring Harper back in. You had backup corner, backup nickel, and they threw the ball on you. Like, oh man, it's hard for me to blame the players on that one. It just is.
Yeah, it was a frustrating defensive performance as well, because I think that you could have had more, right? Like, I don't think it was terrible by any stretch. I don't think it was obviously the best that they've been this season. I mean, this is a team that came in averaging only letting up over 15 points a game. Like, the Notre Dame defense has been very good this year. Has been stellar. Like we saw the game against USC where they made Caleb Williams look terrible. Like we've seen this defense play really well in a lot of spots this year. And today you still forced a couple turnovers. You still put your team in enough solid positioning to be in the football game until the very end. So the defense is not the issue. I do feel like they left a little bit on the table, though, at times. I think that the tackles in space were my biggest takeaway, especially Vince, is like they gave up too much was the thing, right? It wasn't that the defense was awful. It was that they gave up too much. They were in good positioning a lot, which, again, what's the job of a coach? To put players in a position to make plays, right? That's the job of a coach. From there, it's about players making the play. And I just think Al Golden did a pretty good job today as far as getting guys in position to make a play. I think especially early on in this game, the first half is what I'm talking about mostly. Notre Dame missed too many tackles and they weren't able to finish plays. I mean, like you talk about that touchdown run, Moffitt's first touchdown run that was like 41 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
If DJ Brown condenses down and goes toward the line of scrimmage, he maybe gets 3 or 4 yards in that play. Maybe
he blows it up in the backfield, Ryan. I mean,
I don't hate that play call at all defensively.
Agreed.
The player didn't make the play. Like he didn't make the play there. Cam Hart with the pass interference. I don't even remember I don't even think that hurt him on that drive, but it's like, Cam, you're in a great position. Keep running to the hands. Flip your head around, you probably break that pass up. Like, I don't think he needed to yank that dude in that situation, Bo Collins, for that pass interference. There were, I think Notre Dame mostly defensively was in great positions to make plays today. There were just too many plays that were left on the table, especially in the run game today. Like, you made Phil Maffa look like a future starting NFL running back, which maybe he will be. I don't know if he will be, actually. But you made him look better than he is, in my opinion. I think he's a good player. You made him look like he was one of the best running backs in college football today. That's what you did defensively.
Yep. I agree. And it was, I mean, you let him, at one point I had written down that he had 188 yards because I didn't think that Clemson was going to get the ball back. And I think he lost a couple of yards on that last. So he had 186 yards. 36. You let him carry the ball 36 times for 186 yards, 2 touchdowns. And obviously he had the big long run of 41 yards. But at the end of the day, he ran the ball more than twice the amount of time that Audric Estime carried the ball. They almost had the identical average run. So, still averaged 5.2 yards a carry. Audric Estime averaged 5.1 yards a carry, but they just made him look like a beast because they gave him the ball 36 times. They couldn't stop him.
Is that how many he ran today? He ran 36 times?
36 carries, Ryan. 36.
That's
so,
wild.
they knew where their bread and butter was. And it wasn't, I said early on in our chat, I was like, if Notre Dame forces Cade Klubnik to be a passer, that's going to work out really well for Notre Dame. And it did for the most part, except for that one drive. There's that one drive. There's that one drive where they decided it was a good idea to just pull their All-Americans off the field, which, whatever. So, a frustrating day.
On both sides, though, number 7 ran the ball well on both sides of the football today, right? I mean, number 7 was balling today, man. Number 7,
That was the name. That was the name of the game right there. Running the ball to number 7. So let's go position by position real quick and just kind of fly through this. Defensive line, kind of talked about a little bit already. To me, they got pushed around early, but I think they settled in and played well in the second half. As far as that goes, they were getting more pressure. They were getting in the backfield more in the second half than they were in the first half. But early on, man, the defensive line was a no-show.
Yeah, they were pretty invincible. They didn't make many plays, especially in the first half. I mean, we even saw Howard Cross has been the most dependable player on the defensive line this year. Miss a bad tackle in the backfield during this game as well, or maybe it was at the line of scrimmage. But defensive line, I would agree, was not overly impressive early. I thought second half they did a lot of good things. Like I thought Riley Mills played well in the second half.
Yeah. Agreed.
I thought Gabriel Rubio had some nice pop in the second half. Even I saw Jason Onye in there holding his own. So I think Notre Dame defensive line settled in, but they definitely had a little bit of a rough start. I thought that Javonte Jean-Baptiste, at least from the broadcast, looked like he had a good second half as well. in the run game and finished with at least a half a sack, maybe the full sack on that one play. So I think the defensive line ended up playing a really solid to good second half, but the first half was definitely a little bit underwhelming in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. Linebacker play. They
Wasn't
pointed
great.
out.
Wasn't great
Yeah,
today.
I mean
Yeah.
they pointed out a play where JD was late getting over, allowed a run that he ended up chasing down.
Yep.
I really I want to go back and watch the film on the
Yep.
linebacker play. I was watching a lot of the secondary, or at least trying to, when it was live. It's so hard not being at the game and trying to watch it on TV and all of that. But didn't hear a lot of Marist. I heard a lot of JD. I heard a lot of Jack.
Maris was not great today. Maris,
Okay.
it was just
Well,
this
there
was
you
a
go.
bad Maris game from what I saw on the field. I think that he may have missed one tackle maybe in the game overall, but he was very hesitant to get downhill and to try to make a play. Like he was trying to let
Yeah.
everything come to him, and I don't think he was aggressive nearly enough on the second level. I think JD had a couple good plays. I think he had his shortcomings in a couple. I think Jack is a little bit of the same. So I think that overall the linebackers were below average today, in my opinion.
Okay, there you go. I will cede to the former linebacker on that analysis, Ryan, because I did not get a good look at them. Secondary wise, honestly, I thought Benjamin Morrison, Cam Hart played really well. You had the pass interference on Cam Hart, but at the end of the day, he probably saved a big gain, if not a touchdown on that one. So it's like, okay. I don't think he needed to grab. I think he could have caught up and at least disrupted that pass as well. So I don't like the grab on the shoulder pad there, but
I think if he flips his head around, man, he might make a play on that ball.
Right.
Like I really
That's
do.
what I'm
I saw
saying.
someone in the
Yeah.
someone in the chat said that like it was going to be 6. I don't agree with that at all. Like at worst,
No. Yeah.
like maybe he
Even like
catches
said
it,
that.
maybe, but like Bo Collins is not going to go for 6 on that play. Like he's not going to go for 6. But I honestly think, and I could be wrong. I'll go back to the film and I'll be able to update you guys later. But I think if Cam plays the ball a little bit better there and gets his head around, I think he might be able to make a play on that football. Personally, that's just my opinion, though. I think he may have.
Yeah, I thought those two played great. I mean, they played like they normally do. I mean, Xavier Watts, you said in the chat at one point, don't get used to him. He's not coming back.
Well, someone said, because it was a topic this week,
Okay.
because apparently Mel Kiper has him as a top 6 safety in the 2024 NFL draft if he declares.
Well,
I'm just saying, guys, like I'm not putting this into the universe because I don't know Xavier and I don't know his decision making, but he's already graduated from the University of Notre Dame and he's balling out, man. He's got 7 interceptions this year. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't be shocked if he's not back next year. But again, that's a off-season conversation. That's not a this season conversation, or at least not a right now conversation.
It's a December conversation.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, so that's not really that far. It's next month, man. So it's not really that far away. Obviously, as a fan of Xavier Watts, since the second he stepped on campus, I really hope that he comes back for another year, man, just to solidify that secondary, because you're going to lose Cam Hart. Thank goodness that Ben Morrison can't go anywhere. He has to stay for at least one more year. So
he might petition the NFL to see if he can come out as a second-year player. I don't know.
I'll tell you what, I feel the same way about Benjamin Morrison.
Yep.
After his sophomore year that I did at Michael Mayer. It's like, thank goodness he has to come back for another year. So, we get another year of those guys. But so I would love for Xavier Watts to come back, but he is playing so well right now. Gets another interception in this game. I mean, was laying the wood on people.
He smacked somebody, man. Well, it was Brenningstall, right? The tight end. He got him good on the one play. Yeah.
And it was a
legal
hit.
Too.
Yes, totally clean hit. I mean, he's just in the right place at the right time, coming down in the alley, playing center field. I mean, he is playing really, really well. So I would understand if he went, but I would be very upset for my own personal wants and needs. But but I mean, he played well. Again, the other safety, I thought at one point, I thought that Ramon Henderson made a bad play. He came up on what he thought was going to be kind of a swing pass or like a screen, and he let a guy get behind him.
I think it was just a screen. Was a screen wheel? I forget what it was.
Yeah. And he let his guy. He let his guy run by him, and so that guy was open. He probably shouldn't have done that because it was like a 2-for-1 kind of a situation. Obviously, DJ Brown missed on that blitz. But he made and he made a lot of tackles. I don't remember exactly how many. I felt like DJ Brown was in on a lot of tackles today. Let's see if I'm even close to accurate on that as I look through. DJ Brown had 5 total tackles, 3 solos.
So here's the thing with DJ, Vince. I didn't think DJ was necessarily bad today. I just think that every time DJ does makes a bad angle, it just gets taken advantage of every single time.
Thank you.
Every time. But like overall, I didn't think he was bad. It was just on the first touchdown run. I'm like, dude, you got to squeeze that down. You got to squeeze it down, and maybe it's not a touchdown. But,
you got to come right off the end, man. Right off the end's butt. Like that's how that needs to be. I'm sure it's coached that way, but that's the way it needs to be executed. Let's put it that way. And so, so safety play was okay. Those are the only 2 times that I noticed the safety play was on that one for Henderson and the one for DJ Brown. So, again, we'll take a look at it on the replay, but secondary I didn't think played that poorly. I mean, Clemson didn't exactly light it up from a passing standpoint in this game. I mean, Kate Klubnik was a 50% passers, 13 of 26 for 109 yards. I mean, it was that one drive that he was just on fire, frankly. I mean, it was he at that point, I'm pretty sure this is the drive. He hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 passes in a row, culminating in that touchdown.
Right.
I mean, he got hot when he needed to, man. And that touchdown ended up being the difference in the game. And so that's why I just wanted to throw the starters at him a little bit more during that drive. So, So yeah, defensively, again, didn't play great at the beginning, but they played well enough to win, in my opinion. So
how about the play by Benjamin Morrison too on the Xavier Watts interception, Vince? That he was the one that broke that pass up and it caromed off into Xavier Watts. I thought Benjamin. I actually thought the one pass interference on Ben Morrison too in that football game was like a very ticky tack, man. I did not love that call. I thought Benjamin Morrison was really good today. I thought he was really.
I thought he was too. Yeah, no,
he gave up that one slant to Bo Collins, but it's like you're going to give up one, right? Like you're going to give up one occasionally. It's going to happen, but I thought for the most part he was really good.
Bo Collins made a nice move on that. I mean, it was an outside release and then came up underneath. I mean, and he had been thinking that it was going to be an outside release, and so he got him. I mean, you have all those opportunities in a game. You're going to get got every now and again. I'm not even sure if that's English, but I'm going to say that you're going to get got. And he did on that play. So, good on him. Right. But yeah, again, played well enough to win, folks. I mean, that's all you can ask of the defense. Right. And you can't put the pressure on the defense all the time to win you the game, like to flat out win you the game. You need help from the offense and or special teams. And he did not get it today from either group. So
absolutely.
All right, so that's going to do it for our breakdown of the game. We still have to get to our super chats, but before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share with your family and friends, give us a 5-star review, and make sure you hang out. If you guys want to get a question in, make sure that you put in a super chat. That's all we're going to do on these post-game shows, so make sure you get the super chats in. We got a bunch to get through, so Ryan, I'll tell you what, I'll pull them up, you read them, and we'll go from there. How about that? So we'll start at the beginning. From Kevin. Oops. And we're going to go with Alan. I go find Kevin's.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. We got Alan Watson who says, is it time to see what we have at quarterback for next year? Vince, I look, I think that there's an impulse to going to this conversation, but I actually think it's reasonable to have the conversation now. I think it's reasonable to have the conversation now. You're 7-3. Sam is struggling. The best you're going to be is 9-3. And honestly, is Sam Hartman going to be the difference between winning the last 2 games potentially against Wake Forest and Stanford? Like, is he going to be the difference? So and you're also in a bye week this week, which if you're going to make a transition to somebody else the last couple games, why not? Right. So would I necessarily do it? I'm not sure. But my point is for this question, I think it's on the table. If I was the coaching staff, I would think about this. It would at least be a talking point of a conversation for me. I think
I was, it was after the Louisville game. People were like, bench Sam Hartman, it's time to move on. I was 1,000% anti that rhetoric. Like, no, that's ridiculous. No, absolutely not. after this one, I agree with you. I think the
Right.
conversation at least needs to be had. Now, I wouldn't bench him completely because look, at the end of the day, I think you could probably still lose a game and still go to the same freaking bowl that you're going to go to at this point. Like, I don't even think it matters at this point. Now, I'm not saying that Notre Dame's going to lose to Wake Forest. I'm not saying they're going to lose to Stanford, but I am saying that the pressure has died down a lot at this point. And
Sure.
so I'm letting Sam Hartman start the game on senior night again, or senior day against Wake Forest, his former team. Like,
Oh, that's a great point. Benching him against Wake Forest would be very disrespectful. If
that
you
would
actually
be
think about it.
that would be messed up in my opinion, and I would not do that. I would not do that. Now, would I have maybe a plan to work Steve Angeli into the game at times? You know, maybe that hook
Yeah.
comes a little earlier if the game
Right. Maybe you just
is in
give
hand.
maybe you just give Steve a couple drives here,
Yeah,
like a drive or two in the first half, drive or two in the second.
right.
But you're right. Yeah, I'm definitely not benching him against Wake Forest, his former team, because like,
No.
guys, he isn't playing well, but like, still got to give the kid respect, right?
Right.
For coming here in the first place. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's a conversation now though, because a couple weeks ago when people wanted to have the conversation, it's like, guys, you still have a chance to go 10-2 and go to a New Year's Six bowl. Like, it's still on the table. That's not on the table anymore. And
Correct.
Wake Forest and Stanford are games that, again, Steve Angeli could win. Kenny Minchie could win. Like, I don't think it's going to take a great
Agreed.
quarterback to win those games, but I think
Yep.
you were correct. I would not bench him against Wake Forest. I think that would be a very
No.
bad look. Very bad.
It would be a terrible look. Like that's really disrespectful at that point. I mean, so I would not do that. But again, the conversation's on the table about getting either Steve or Kenny or whoever your second string quarterback is. It's time to get some reps. And I really don't have a problem with that conversation with
Right.
where we're at right now. So
yeah, I think
All
the
right.
conversation should more be about how do we give the quarterbacks an opportunity to play behind Sam
Yes.
Hartman? I think that's more the conversation. I don't think it's a purely benching conversation as far as Sam doesn't play the last two games, the quarterback starts the last two, and that's it, and he plays every snap. I think it's a conversation, though, of like, hey, fast forward a little bit to next year. Is there some opportunity to give Steve Angeli some playing time here? Or you still have two games of Kenny Minchie. So, like, can you sneak in another game of Kenny and actually give him a real series, let him play? And I think that's the conversation for me.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
God, some of these chats are so, oh man, I can't.
I know.
Not Kevin. I'm talking about in the actual chat. Kevin
Yeah.
Bugaj. Kevin, thank you so much for super chat. This is a mediocre football team. I am so tired of rooting for mediocre teams.
Well, Kevin, I don't want to be disrespectful to you, Kevin, and I'm not going to be, but I will say, but then no one's tying you to any team, dog. Like, go root for somebody else, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you don't like it, root for somebody else. It's super simple.
Kevin, Kevin, I do feel for you though, sir, because I wouldn't quite say mediocre, but I would say
It's
that obviously they're a frustrating football team that was very below average today and has been below average in a couple losses this year. So that's frustrating, man. That's frustrating, no doubt.
It is, man.
I understand the frustration. I understand the frustration.
So do
Trust
I.
me. I do, man. I do.
I totally get it, man. But again, you have that choice. Like, we're all fans, man. I grew up a fan. You know, I think Ryan grew up a fan. Like, we're all fans first, to be honest with you. And of course, we're going to bring you analysis and all of that. No one's got your feet to the fire, man. Like, when my kid goes out and has a terrible game, I still got to root for him because he's my kid. Like, I'm tied to that kid. But, like, you're not tied to him, man. Like, change it up. Root for somebody else if it's that disappointing to you. That's all I got to say.
All I have to say too is I drank some ginger ale during this show because I had a sick stomach, right, from watching the football game. So, Irish MP78, thank you for the super chat. Can we stop praising Sam Hartman? That ship has sailed with the bad performances. Time to start the backup and prep for next season. And offensive line is not good either. This season is a complete failure.
Wow, man. I don't know if it's a complete failure. Nobody's happy. Nobody's happy right now, right? If you've listened to the show, nobody's happy, right? It's an overall failure, I suppose, because we all said that the floor was 10-2. That was the floor. And now they're at best they're going to be 9-3 in the regular season. So if you want to call that a failure, you are more than welcome to do that. I get where you're coming from. I get it.
Sure.
They did not live up to expectations by any stretch. They didn't.
Right.
But
and we yeah. Sorry,
no, you're good. I'm just saying there's a but in there too. You can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater either. Like it's not. First of all, I don't think that the offensive line is not good. Like that's a bit of a stretch for me. They had some issues at times, but they didn't play that poorly. Like go back and watch the game. Offensive line did not play that poorly. You don't put up those kind of rushing yards if the offensive line is garbage. You just don't. So I got a bone to pick with that part of it. And again, who was praising Sam Hartman? Like raise your hand if you're praising Sam Hartman. Like I don't think so, man. Like that was definitely not happening. So
I will say when Sam Hartman plays well. I will say when Sam Hartman plays bad. Today Sam Hartman was bad. Irish MP 78. I no doubt about that. He was a bad football player today. He did not play well. I don't 100% agree with the offensive line. I think that there were a couple players that struggled, but for the most part, I thought the offensive line played pretty well today. And yeah, so that's where we are.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
J.A. Dallin, 33. Thank you for the super chat. With the lack of development and progress on offense, what hope is there next year will be better?
I've been a Cubs fan my whole life. It's always next year, man. Like that's
always next year. Yeah. But eventually, the Cubs broke through for you, did they, Vince? They broke through.
Darn right they did. You're darn right they did. And I relived. Yeah. I'm literally reading a book right now about the 2016 season. So
nice.
You know what?
You don't need a book, man. You lived it. What are you talking about?
I know. I'm reveling. I'm still reveling in that season, and we are. Oh my gosh, we're so far away from it at this point. But I'm literally doing a show with the recruiting coordinator at Irish Breakdown. Tell the people what there is coming. Okay, like. Is there anything to be excited about, Ryan?
I mean, there is, man. I understand where the skepticism is here, guys. I truly do. All I can tell you is that Notre Dame will have talent coming to South Bend, and there will be talent that will return to South Bend. And there's going to be a lot of talent offensively on this team over the next few years, and I could talk about the 2024 class with CJ Carr and Keith Young and Cam Williams and Styles Prescott and Gerby Lambert and Jack Larson, a lot of really good football players, right? I can talk about that. But I understand where the skepticism's from, because at the end of the day, the offensive staff needs to do a better job of maximizing and using the talent. I get it. So this offseason, we'll give you plenty of reasons to be optimistic. We'll also give you plenty of reasons to still have question marks.
Sure.
But there is talent here. So if Notre Dame can get it right from a development and a usage perspective, I think that things could turn around quickly on the offensive side of the football. There just needs to be some things figured out this offseason. I 100% agree with that.
Yep. And I'm going to bring up everybody's super chats because you guys paid to have them up there, and we really appreciate it. But I'm just warning you, Ryan, there's a lot of negativity out there.
I love it, man. I bask in negativity, sir. I bask. I'm a Notre Dame fan. Charlie Weiss's last belt loop. Charlie, what's up, man? This is really embarrassing. We bring in a guy who can't get a single wide receiver open. The play calling is the same over and over. Marcus Freeman needs to make changes, but I expect the same. I just don't get it. This team is not very good.
Yeah, okay. I don't really have anything to say. I mean, look, what does Marcus Freeman have to do when the season is over? He's got to look inward. He's got to look at the staff. Yeah. He's got to look at the guys that he hired. And if there's changes to be made, he needs to make those changes, whatever the case may be, whether it's philosophy or whether it's personnel. You got to make those changes, man. Like that's like any job, right? Like my job at the school as the dean, like we go back and every situation that we have, we look at the situation. Hey, how could we have done this better? Right? At the end of the year, we do the same thing. How can we be better? How can we be more efficient? How can we do like that's what you do at any job, right? And that's what Marcus Freeman needs to do. If he's going to be the head coach of this team, he needs to go and he needs to look at the entire operation, start to finish. What do we do home games? What do we do at away games? What's our philosophy offensively? What's our philosophy defensively?
Yep.
What's our philosophy in recruiting? Like all of it. You need to analyze all of it. And you need to say, are we doing a great job here? Are we not doing a great job here? Whatever the case may be, you've got to analyze all of that. That's what you do in any business, right?
Yep.
Brian does that in our business, Irish Breakdown. He and I constantly have conversations. How can we do this better? How can we be better at this? Even when things are working well, we're like, hey, how can we just spruce this up and make it better, make it more exciting, keep it from getting stale? That's what you do in every business. That's what Marcus Freeman needs to do. He needs to look at the whole thing and decide what's working, what's not working, and make those adjustments. I expect that to happen. We'll see. What's up, Brian?
I can't believe you're talking about me when I wasn't supposed to be on the show. I just jump in immediately. You're talking about Brian.
Hey,
Sorry.
man, you're always near and dear. So
I just had to jump in because apparently I watched a different game than most people, according to the chat. So, but yeah, I just was going to jump in. You guys can keep rolling.
All right, man.
I'm
We're
just
just
jumping
doing
right where you guys are.
We're doing our super chats, baby. So here we go. Joe
Papiti, super chat. Thank you, Joe. I think it's clear that Dabo's players will play for him when the chips are down, whereas Freeman's guys won't. Does that tell you something? Who replaces Marcus Freeman?
Can I? I'm sorry. I'm jumping in.
Yes, do it.
Joe, I'm sorry, buddy. This is an emotional response and a bad take. I love you, man. You're a great member. We love the super chats, but this is a bad take. If anything, the problem at Notre Dame isn't that they don't play for him when they're down. It's that they don't play as hard when they're up. Because if you want to know how Marcus Freeman's players play for him when they're down, go watch the USC game after they had just lost to Louisville. Right? Like, who replaces Freeman? Can we just let him finish his second season? Right? Like, the problem is I want to be able to hammer Marcus Freeman today. But then when takes like this come along, it's kind of like, now you have put me in the position of, because I'm not going to jump on a ridiculous take,
Right.
of having to defend a poor performance. Right? This was a poor performance. This needs to be fixed. I know you guys talked about it. They've got to figure out why they look like gangbusters at home and like they don't want to be there on the road. This is three straight road games. This team did not look like they wanted to be there.
Yeah, I don't know if they had like bad pizza or what. Like whatever it is, they just don't look like they want to be there. And it's frustrating, man. It's frustrating.
No, I mean it was bad. Now if you want to say what is Marcus Freeman doing wrong in his preparation, Ryan, to not be able to get this team ready to play on the road, that's a very fair conversation to have. Very fair conversation to have at this point in time.
Well, we had it.
Yeah, we had that a lot. We had that a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what the common denominator is, but you need to fix it because you're not going to play every big game from here on out at home. There's going to be a lot of big road games in the future. So something needs to change.
And that's gonna make or break his tenure at Notre Dame. I mean, at the end of the day, that is one of the things that it's going to go into his job performance, right? I mean, any kind of job performance analysis, how are you playing on the road, man, in big games? So far, not well.
Right.
And again, I'm not calling for him to be fired. Again, it's year 2.
Yeah.
It's year 2.
That's like we brought it up. We addressed it. Joe, I love you, man.
Yeah.
I really do. You're a great poster. You've been around for a long time, but that's
he texted me all during the game, man, and I love talking to him.
I mean, I get it. It's an emotional response.
Sure.
And y'all listen, part of the reason that I had to sit in the car for 45 minutes. And after a while, I just couldn't take it anymore with some of the responses. Like, I get that we're emotional, but like, look, y'all need to be able to vent. I mean, that's the thing is, I'm not coming here to tell y'all you can't vent. I'm not telling you to come in. I'm not jumping in the chat like an hour and a half in, but like Ryan and Vince are doing a great job, but I'm telling you guys, can't act like that. No, be pissed. Honestly, I wish the Notre Dame players were a little bit more pissed today.
Yeah.
Honestly. And like, you just kind of kept waiting for the offense to say, okay, defense keeps giving us the ball. Let's step up and play like we care. And they did. And like, for me to say that, Vince, you know me, man. I don't talk about players not like acting like they care, because I've always said these kids care a lot more about this than you do as fans.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, it's kind of like, maybe not on the road. They do at home, but not on the road.
Yeah.
And your defense, you can't. I mean, I know you guys talked about this, but like you just can't be in situations, man, where your defense has to play great or you just can't win.
Yeah, we talked about
like
that.
Nobody can do that.
Right.
And so Coach Freeman's got to figure out what it is with this philosophy, what it is with their preparation that leads to these type of things. It's because it's hit or miss with this team. They think about it. They blow out Navy, blow out Tennessee State, blow out NC State, blow out Central Michigan, blow out USC, blow out Pitt, lose to Ohio State, lose to Louisville, lose to Clemson, and almost lost to Duke. It's been all or nothing.
Yeah.
This is the most schizophrenic team I've seen at Notre Dame. Like the 2021 team that was disappointing, they just disappointed all the time.
Right.
That's just who they were. This team looks like, dude, this team could play. There have been 3 or 4 games this year where I look at this Notre Dame football team like they could play with anybody. And then there's times where I'm like, they better step up against Wake Forest in 2 weeks. It's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Agreed. All right.
Yeah, Brandon Plensner with the super chat. What's up, Brandon? The fact Marcus Freeman can't get in a ref's ear to get the refs to throw just one flag on Clemson shows how inexperienced and shook he really is. Clemson O-line held a lot.
I mean, again, this is looking at an end result and drawing the wrong conclusions to what it's not about him being inexperienced or it's not about him shook or inexperienced. It's about him not having the credibility, so to speak. Where if the refs are hearing from Dabo and here, and this is second game this has happened. Ryan, wasn't there another game on the road this year? Was it Louisville or Duke where they didn't get a penalty call until like late in the fourth quarter?
I think it was.
But like this is guys, this is stuff we've been complaining about since Kelly was here. How the ACC officials are, especially on road games. I mean, look, that had nothing to do with why Notre Dame lost today. This is why you don't leave it in their hands. This is why you don't leave it in the officials' hands. It shouldn't have been about the officials. I mean, your defense and your offense and special teams gave them 10 points. They had another touchdown drive that went for 41 yards. It's like, I mean, if you're Al Golden, like he should be the highest paid person on the entire staff, including the head coach, because if his unit doesn't play elite football, they can't win. Yeah, I mean, but again, yeah, the officials didn't call a whole lot, but I didn't think they called a lot against Notre Dame either. The stuff they called against Notre Dame was kind of obvious. Yeah. Like I just, like the pass interference on Cam Hart, that was kind of obvious, right? The one hold that Blake Fisher had, that was pretty obvious. I mean, the false start's pretty obvious. You know why Clemson didn't get any penalties? They didn't false start like Notre Dame did. Refs would have called that. Did you, so this was about Notre Dame not now his inexperience flat out is a big reason, in my opinion, why the team played the way that they did. But I don't think it has, I don't think that was the driving force behind the no penalties. I think that's just the ACC is what they are. And Dabo's over there working the officials, and he's got 2 championships, and Marcus Freeman hasn't even finished 2 seasons. Guess who the officials are going to give the
Oh, sure.
And the ACC has always been anti Notre Dame. And that was true when Brian Kelly was here, guys. This isn't a new thing, but yeah.
Zach Martin says Sam Hartman and the receivers just aren't who we thought they were. Add coaching issues. It is what it is. Finish strong and on to the next generation of talent.
What next generation of talent? The 2 starting wide receivers are true freshmen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally a time in the game where they had 3 true freshmen on the field at wide receiver. So what's the next generation that you're talking about, Zach?
Well, I guess next generation of development as sophomores and juniors and so on and so forth, I suppose. I don't know.
But I mean, I don't disagree with the first 2. I mean, look, that you are what your stats and what your production and what the film says you are.
Yep.
I agreed. David Carpenter with the big super chat. Thank you so much, David. I wanted to donate after this game to you 3 and thank you for the help after the games this year. Things are negative though, but y'all have been a bright spot. Thank you, Brian, Vince, and Ryan.
Appreciate
Welcome,
you,
David. Thanks, man.
Yeah,
thanks for understanding. Because guess what, guys? We're all fans too, and we're all just as ticked off as you guys are. And yeah, we're all. This is a big therapy session for all of us. Believe me.
Yeah.
We're all just as mad as you are. Maybe not as mad as some people, because you know.
Oh no, I think I'm pissed. I'm going to be
Well,
pissed at the
you're-
things that were actually the reason why they
Yeah,
lost, not
okay,
make
there you
up
go.
things that had nothing to do with why they lost. And because I have a personal beef with the player. I mean, I'm going to actually focus on things that were the reason they lost, not just
It's good.
make
Yeah.
stuff up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, here's another one.
From Aiden Benami. I'm
Iden
sorry,
Benami. Yeah.
Benami. I can always rely on IB to show up weekly.
We
Every
can
week,
always
man.
step up.
We're here.
And he's got the 2 broken heart emojis, and I think that's accurate. I feel like
Oh,
my
yeah.
heart's broken more than anything else. Like I'm not even pissed.
Vince,
I'm-
that was
I'm-
the
I'm-
saddest thing talking to you after the game. It
Yeah,
was like it was like almost like defeat
yeah,
in your voice.
yeah.
Like, and somebody else I saw earlier in the chat, one of the comments that they made, and I was like, you know what? I can't, same S, different year. And it's just
Yeah.
like, because if you think about it, and I'm sure you guys said this, Notre Dame right now through 10 games is the exact same spot they were last year.
Crazy.
7-3.
Crazy.
That's with, and the thing is, you can't okay, so they're young at receiver. I'm so tired of that excuse because every team's going to be young somewhere. You've got a
Sure.
6th-year senior at quarterback, a junior returning starter at running back. You've got juniors and seniors at receiver, tight end, offensive line. You've got multi-year starters at left tackle that are juniors. You've got a 5th-year senior at center. You got 2 junior guards. Your entire defensive line is made up of 2 seniors, a 5th-year senior, and a 6th-year senior. Your entire linebacking core is made up of 5th-year seniors. Your top cornerback's a 5th-year senior. The other guy's young, sophomore. He's an all-freaking American. You've got a senior starting at safety, another senior is a backup safety, and a 6th-year senior starting at safety. Like, this is not a young football team. And they're playing like a group that you expect to be a young football team. And you look at the offense and the run game early was great. I mean, they're pushing them around, and then the second half, it's like they're just still running the same stuff that Clemson's adjusted to, and they do nothing in the run game in the second half. It's just like, did you think Clemson was just going to come out and play the same exact defense in the second half? It's like, it just seems to me like there's just no pride in their craft at Notre Dame on offense, right? Like,
Sure.
and I don't say pride like as players. That's a different deal. That's heart. But like, there's pride in your craft that I just don't see being developed on offense right now. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Charlie Weiss's last Beltlu with another one. What's up, Charlie? Can't be cheap with hiring coordinators. Pay cheap, get cheap results. Hopefully there's changes made that are very necessary. Need a new offensive coordinator and wide receiver coach.
I mean,
Okay.
we don't do that here, but thanks for the super chat, man.
Yep.
But the first part of what he said, though, is correct. If Marcus Freeman does decide to make a change somewhere, right? I'm sorry, you're Notre Dame. Like,
Yeah, that I agree with.
Your head coach should be able to get whoever the heck he wants.
Correct.
Whoever the heck he wants. Because I know a lot of donors at Notre Dame, and I can assure you, if they're asked, they will provide.
Correct. In a heartbeat.
And how do I know that? Because they've told me.
Correct.
We had another super chat from Aw Truck Estime. Like it. Good play on words there. Thank you for the super chat. Bench Sam Hartman and get Steve Angeli and Kenny Minchie experience.
So we talked about this a little bit already, Brian.
We did.
We talked about the fact that the conversation at least needs to be on the table, but we're not benching. Ryan and I, if we have it say, we're not benching Sam Hartman in front of Senior Day and Wake Forest. Like, I'm just, I don't. We thought that's not that's just disrespectful in my personal opinion. Like, I just wouldn't do it. Now, would I maybe have a drive or two or whatever, maybe
or 4?
Yeah, I mean, I would. I think that that's the first thing actually that came into my head when I realized, okay, Notre Dame's going to lose this game. What do we, what's Notre Dame playing for? Is it time to start looking at some quarterback,
right?
Changes and things of that nature? But I'm not benching him for this game. I'm just not.
Yeah, you got, that's what you guys discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not benching him for the Wake Forest game. If they were
Right.
playing someone other than Wake Forest, I'd consider it. Because number one, Sam
Yeah.
Hartman's had a senior day. But
That's
like
fair.
the kid committed to you. He's worked hard. It hasn't worked out. But it's not because the kid doesn't work hard, doesn't try hard. He's a bad kid. He's got a crap attitude. He
Right.
played terrible today. And
Yeah.
if they were playing someone other than Wake Forest, I would say, hey, you know what? Like, your 6-year senior quarterback's not throwing to open receivers. Now, did the receivers play well today? No, not really. They played okay. There was plenty of guys open at running back, tight end, and receiver, and the quarterback just wouldn't throw the ball. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, Vince, the stat I sent to you guys, Notre Dame forced 5 straight punts or turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually at 4 straight punts at one point in time, and then they forced a turnover. And in those 4 drives that ensued that were also 4 punts by Notre Dame, they had 24 total yards. And it's just like there's guys one-on-one, and it's like you got to take a chance. I don't know if I don't know what it is, and it's like first half it was the corner route he throws to Jaden Greathouse. I mean the linebacker flew out to Jeremiah Love. That guy was squatting right on Jaden Greathouse. That should tell any experienced quarterback there's going to be something coming clear or open on the other side. And Rico Flores comes screaming across. Corner goes over top of the stop route. Rico catches it. He's running for 15, 20 yards, and it's like, where are you? And that's going to happen every now and then, guys, but it happens 7, 8 times in this game. And it's just like, you expect the 6-year guy to be better than that. And they're not playing for the things that they were playing for before. So I would have the conversation about what we need to do. But I just, there's a lot more that just goes into this besides just build for the future. There's also a level of doing the right thing involved, to
Correct.
your guys' point. And however, I would absolutely have a plan for the other quarter. But the problem is they're just going to throw Steve Angeli in the game. And with all due respect to Steve, I don't get. Somebody just said he's not owed anything. It's not about owing him. It's just sometimes it's just you do the right thing.
Yeah, it's
not
about
that
doing the
he's
right
owed
thing.
it.
Yeah, correct.
It's you do it because it's the right thing to do. Like if I buy my wife flowers because I did something wrong, that's one thing. But when sometimes I'll buy my wife flowers not because she deserves it or she's owed it, just because I want to. She needs it. It's the right thing to do. There's all types of examples and analogies I could use where I'm doing this not because I necessarily want to, because my point was my wife doesn't deserve that just for her whatever, because she's my wife. It's like I do it because it's the right thing to do. It's something that makes her happy, brings her joy, and that's my job as her husband is to do that. So there's just all these different things where it's like, look, man, it's not that he's owed it. I would agree with you. He's not owed it, but I still think I agree with you guys. It's still the right thing to. Now, my emotional reaction would be, yes, screw it. We're play the next guy, but there's a lot more to it. One thing I would say is this should absolutely 100% crystallize in Notre Dame's heads. Don't go to the transfer portal next year for a quarterback. Because this program, I mean, it's just like my dad's like, why won't he make I said, look, he was in that system for 5 years. He had receivers he had faith in. It's like he comes here and for whatever reason, Notre Dame's fault, his fault, whatever, it didn't work out. Develop your flipping kids, right? Develop your quarterbacks, get those kids the time. Don't waste our time with another portal quarterback unless Caleb Williams calls you up or Drake May calls you up and says, hey, I want one more year in college. Like, honestly, I'm so over the transfer portal quarterback thing. And if you don't have a guy that can coach those kids up, go get one. Same thing a receiver. If you don't have a guy that can coach up the receivers you have on the roster, don't go to the portal for a new receiver. Go to the portal for a new receivers coach. Right? That sounded like a shot at Chancey Stuckey. It wasn't. It was just an example of another position I hear people say go to the portal for. Same thing a quarterback's coach. If you don't have a quarterback's coach who can develop the quarterbacks that you have, then go get a new one. I'm not saying Gino Guidugli can't do that. I'm making just a point.
Oh, and Gino Guidugli was clearly on TV not happy with the way that Sam Hartman was playing.
Right. And
you know what
again,
I mean?
My comments are not negative shots at Gino or Coach or Coach Stuckey. It's more of just a general comment that if you feel you have to go to the portal with the talent you're going to have at those positions, then maybe the players aren't the problem.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's true about Coach Stuckey. I'm not saying that's true about Gino. I'm just making a point because I'm hearing myself saying, I'm like, boy, that really comes across like I'm saying Gino can't do that. I'm not. That's not the point.
Yep. This is comment here is very similar to what we just talked about with Call Me Ty. Says, does Hartman start the last 3 games? We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see what they want to do.
I think I would start him against Wake. I would start mixing in some other quarterbacks and then make the decision against Stanford if that's the decision you want to go in.
Can I ask you a question, Ryan? So if he starts against Wake and let's say you play Angeli, which is probably what they would be.
Sure.
Would you kind of and let's say it goes well, Hartman plays well and Angeli plays well. Would you just kind of repeat that again against Stanford the next week, or would you then make the full-time move the next week?
I'd probably make the full-time move. I just want to try to catch up on some. I mean, we're talking about quarterback development, right? There's no reps like live reps, right? So I think I might make the move dependent upon that because, again, like I just Steve Angeli could beat Stanford. Kenny Minchie could beat Stanford. Like I don't think that's a difference in winning a football game and losing a football game. So
Sean just texted me. Ange always deserves flowers, man.
He texted me earlier too.
I was kind of hoping Angela wasn't listening because then she's going to be like, hold on a second. But the point was, it's not that she's owed it.
Right.
Right. It's, anyway, I'm going to still get in trouble when I get home tomorrow.
You're done. It's okay though.
Toast.
It's okay.
Sleeping in Vince's couch.
We got plenty of them.
we had a question from Isaac or a comment from Isaac Atkins. Thank you so much for super chat. I saw a stat that Notre Dame production on play action passes have the biggest drop off in production in the country compared to regular passing plays. What does that mean to y'all?
Notre Dame doesn't have a very well-designed pass offense. I mean,
I think
there's no rhyme or reason to what they do, in my opinion.
I think it could also mean that you don't run a lot of play action, so it might be a small sample size because I feel like this team doesn't run a lot.
Which
of
they
play
don't.
action.
But
Yeah.
that's kind of part of my thing, Ryan. When you're going to be the run dominant team that they are, play action should be a heavy dose of what you do. It's like with anything. You can have a statistic you say, boy, this guy averages 9 yards a carry. You're like, well, yeah, because he carried the ball 30 times and he had 2 long runs, right? But like Dexter Williams, remember in 2017, Dexter averaged 9 yards a carry. And then when he was a starter, it's like there was no way he was going to average 9 yards. I mean, he's still very good at like 6'3". That's still very good, but there was no way he was going to average 9 yards a carry on more time. It can also be true on the opposite side. Is that what you're kind of saying, Ryan? Like sometimes if you have a bad game and you don't do it a whole lot, then it's going to make but my issue is not so much the lack of production, it's the lack of usage that you talked about, Ryan. Like when you're going to run the ball, because I actually think play action at times has been, play action was huge against NC State. You got a couple big plays today off play action. Last week, you got a couple big plays off. You had a 46-yard touchdown against USC off play action. The problem is they don't do it enough.
Yep.
Is the issue. And that goes back to something, Ryan, you and I have been talking about all year, man. They just seem to call plays on offense. There doesn't seem to be any method to the madness, so to speak.
I think that there's a lot of sequencing of let's run on first down and then let's run on second down and then let's make Sam Hartman be a hero on third down. And then that has not worked out the last 4 games. So
Brian, we talked about that a lot, is that they are the amount of pressure that is on a lot of these third downs because of the first and second down play calling is very frustrating. It makes those such high leverage plays and then they're not executing them. You know what I mean? It's like, how about we make third down a little less high leverage by doing some different things on first down? You know what I mean? Or maybe not even get to third down. It just feels like the third downs are so high leverage because of the way they're doing first and second down. So I don't know. That's the way I feel. All right. Joe's got another one here for us.
Joe, what's up, man? Joe Papiti. Thank you so much for the super chat. You need to figure out what your offensive identity is going to be before Kenny Minchie and CJ Carr take over. I agree.
That, Joe, was a good debate. Like, I got nothing to add to that, guys. Do you?
Nope. He's spot on.
I can nail it.
Spot
Needs
on.
to happen this offseason.
Yep. And that
because then you put them in there and then you set them up for potential failure.
Correct.
Right. And then they lose confidence or whatever. And let's say I'm not a Steve Angeli guy, so I'm going to use him as an example, right? Because I'm going to make if you put Steve Angeli in there and you ask him to execute what we've seen this year, especially in some of these games, and he doesn't succeed, that may favor what I want to happen, which is for him not to be the starter. But is that really fair to Steve? Did you really give him the best chance to go prove himself? No, you didn't. So it'd be unfair to Steve. And the reason I use him is because I'm not a Steve Angeli proponent as the starter. It's that would be very unfair to him. Would it help my cause of him not being the starter? Sure. But that's not the point. If Steve Angeli's the guy, then great. I hope he proves me wrong.
Yeah, I don't care who the guy is.
That wouldn't be the way to really evaluate that, is if you do throw him in there and nothing changes. Because now you're going to, like, to your guys' point, you're now going to ask Steve in his first real action of his career, because those backups 40-point minutes don't mean anything.
No.
You're going to ask him his first real snaps of his career to then he's now got to execute those high leverage third down situations. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. You're setting him up for failure. 100%. Michael S.
with the super chat. Thank you, Michael. Hartman, huge disappointment. He was brought in to win the game and has failed miserably. Time to get backups in final 2 games to see what we got.
We talked about that, but thank you for the super chat, Michael.
Well,
Appreciate
There's
it.
a theme to these super chats. There's themes.
I do think the first part, though, guys, I know you guys talked a lot about it, but that has been one of my biggest disappointments of the season. And I think it's part Sam Hartman, part the offense, part Jared Parker, part injuries.
Sure.
And there's a lot of things that factored into it. But the fact of the matter is for whatever you want to say today, there were plenty of opportunities for Sam Hartman to throw the football today to receivers.
Yep.
And he didn't. This game looks so much like guys, this game, this was part of what really had me going in the game. I felt like I was watching the 2022 football team again, where you've got guys getting open. Now, they weren't getting open all the time, but they were getting open plenty of times. And it's like, you don't take outside shots. Nate Wiggins doesn't even start the game. Jalen Phillips doesn't play. RJ Mickens was already out. And you'd have thought Notre Dame was going against their own secondary in the first half. There was one point in the time game, guys, where it was like 10-6 or 17-6, where Notre Dame had 4 passing yards in the second half of the second quarter. Notre Dame had 4 passing yards. 4
on 2 completions.
4.
Yep.
It's like, you guys, you remember you know what it was? Remember last week where we said Pitt's offense was spooked by the Notre Dame defensive line? Notre Dame's offense was that way. They were spooked by the Clemson secondary.
I don't know why.
It's a very good secondary, but you shouldn't be that afraid of it, especially when there's guys out.
Yeah, that's the thing. All right, Christopher Galloway is next in the queue here.
Christopher, thank you for the super chat. 1st and goal at the 5, and the O-line lays an egg. Can't blame Sam for that. I actually think that was an offensive play calling, terrible 3-play sequence, in my opinion. But
it was, but the third play he threw over the head of Jaden Greathouse, who was open in the end zone.
Yes. Yep.
Hit him.
I hated those first 2 plays, though, man.
Oh, so did I.
Same play. Like, come on, man.
Obvious what they were going to do. And Clemson sold out to stop it. And it's a wasted 2 plays. Completely agree with that.
Also,
at the end of the day, hit him.
Yeah.
Hit the open guy.
Don't disagree with that at all. He needs to make that last play. There's no doubt. I just hated the first 2 plays because it's like they've been loading the box on you. They're playing a 5-man front throughout the first 2 drives because they're like, well, you're not going to run the ball on us. And they were saying, okay, well, we're going to run off tackle. We're going to get a little bit outside of the B gap and make some plays. And then the first 2 plays in that to goal sequence, they're like, we're going to run right up the middle from the 5-yard line and get absolutely nothing. Fantastic. Great play calling. Hated it.
If they would have called the 3rd down call on 1st down,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
But it goes back to what you guys were talking about. You put that in a very and you're running that to like, I love Rico Flores and Jaden Greathouse. Ryan, I know you do as well, Vince. But you are asking those guys to be something that they are not. Jaden Greathouse has now not caught a pass in like 5 straight games. That's not just a Jaden Greathouse thing, guys. It's not. Yep. Yeah.
We got another super chat here from my favorite handle, Trash. And thank you for the super chat, Trash. Says, because I love
just-
Notre
I'm-
Dame and IB.
Yes.
I
I'm just
still
happy
love
Sexy
Laura
Man isn't
Dern's-
dropping any.
Yeah.
I
still
had
like
to
Laura
say
Dern's,
Sexy Man's name like twice
Jurassic.
yesterday. It was fantastic.
I think Sexy Man is Sexy Man. Did somebody ban Sexy Man? I'm not sure.
I didn't.
I still like Laura Dern's Jurassic Park shorts is still my favorite one, I think.
Colonel Klink's monocle is one of my favorites.
That's a good one. I met him at an airport, Chicago
Did you
airport
really?
a couple years ago. Yeah, really
Oh,
nice guy. Really
nice.
nice guy.
Has to
Yeah.
be. It's Colonel
Yeah.
Klink's monocle.
Yes, very nice guy.
Gabe A with the super chat. Number 5 on offense didn't even attempt to make a play on the ball late in the 4th. That one stung to watch, and it's not the first time it's happened.
That ball was happened right in front of me. That ball was so incredibly underthrown. Like, okay, make an attempt at a ball that you know you have no chance to make. Okay, sure, fine.
Well, I would have still liked to see effort coming back, though, man. I would have still liked that.
He stopped,
I'm
and the
not saying it's
DB kinda hit
catchable,
him. Like it wasn't catchable. Like there's no way he's making that.
I didn't
play.
say
That
it was
right
catchable.
in front of me. It's like there's just no way. It's like, and
I didn't
people
say it
act like
wasn't
that's why
catchable.
they lost. I'm not Ryan. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. But like, that's the reason Notre Dame lost today. Is that what we're getting to with like some of the stuff in the chat from before I got in here? I'm not talking about you, Ryan. I'm not talking about you.
Oh no,
It's just like, I mean, and here's the other thing. He had run how many go routes before then? The ball never came. Eventually, as a receiver, man, you're just like, okay, well, Vince, okay, you are a triple option wide receiver. After a while, you're kind of running routes like, yeah, I'm not catching the ball right now.
Yeah,
you
right.
know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, shoot, the ball's coming. You know, and it's incredibly underthrown. You know, just whatever. So ridiculous.
Our next super chat was from Shiver Me Fingers. Wow, that's a good one.
I like that one
Thank you
too.
for the
Yeah,
super chat.
it's a good one.
Am I crazy, or if you look at the season as a whole, is Sam Hartman really nothing special, not all cracked up to be, didn't bring much at all to the table, good versus bad teams, bad versus teams that matter?
I mean, Ryan, I look, it'd be very easy for me to be like, you know, my initial feeling on Hartman was that I didn't like him, which is true, but I kind of feel like, why'd you go get him in the first place? And it has nothing to do with Sam Hartman.
Yeah.
Why would you bring a kid in and say, but let's not run an offense that looks anything like what he's done the last 5 years? That's my biggest problem. Like, you're not going to just incorporate the Wake Forest offense. It's not, well, they didn't run the mesh. It's like, Ryan, you've said this a lot lately. He's a gunslinger that loves to throw the ball down the field, and they let him do neither one of those things this entire season.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I just think it's very unfair to the young man. And again, he's a 24-year-old kid, so he can be scrutinized, you know, like he's
Sure.
allowed. And he played very poorly today. But I don't think that the Sam Hartman we've seen over the last few games that has been bad is just the Sam Hartman issue. That's my whole point. I think that there is an offensive play calling issue. I think that there is a philosophy issue. I think that you have limited Sam Hartman, and now that's in his head. And I think that that has ruined his game. I think you've ruined his game.
Agree. So what you're saying, Ryan, those things led, like today, terrible performance from Sam Hartman. But those things led to and I think this is the point you're making, right? Like, yes, we can be criticized the game he played, which was awful, but then say, but guys, it's been building to this. You know what I mean? Like,
I said in the chat between us, and I don't think it's disrespectful at all, but I think Notre Dame has ruined Sam Hartman a little bit. The best version of Sam Hartman. I think it's been ruined a little bit. That's it.
I mean, Ryan, we watched this kid go 20 of 29 for 337 yards and 6 touchdowns against the same exact team last year. And today he was, again, late in the second quarter, there was a period where he had 2 completions for 4 freaking yards, and they had been losing for a while.
Yep.
Like, that's not even trying to throw the ball down the field. There was nothing designed. So then in the second half, when you're down 24-9, then you want to start throwing the ball down the field when Clemson knows it's coming now. Right? Okay. Yes, he played terrible today.
Yeah.
But as Ryan, you and I have, and Vince, this is one thing I know for a fact we're all in agreement on. At the end of the day, as a coach, your job is to put your players in the best position to be successful.
Yep.
Yes.
And I don't think they're doing that with a lot of players on offense right now. Jaden Greathouse, Rico Flores, Sam Hartman, Tobias Merriweather. I mean, there's a lot of guys that we're having that conversation about right now.
And it
Jeremiah
was a
Love.
yeah, I think it was a polar opposite in this game too, because although the defense didn't have a great game by any standard, especially what they've been doing, I still think personally that Al Golden put the guys in position to make a lot of plays. I think they just missed a lot of plays today. Like I think there was a lot of missed tackles today. I don't think that it was all like a bad structure of a defense. Like I thought the defense was fine. It was just you missed tackles, pass interference, like just stupid stuff like that. Just bad things like that.
To me, Ryan, that's different. That's a okay, you didn't have a great game. Maris had a bad game. But overall, Maris has been very good this year. Right? JD didn't have a great game. Overall, he's been pretty good this year. The D tackles didn't have a great game. But overall, so like there's a difference between you just didn't have a good game and this is a systemic problem that has plagued you against every decent defense you've played, which is why Notre Dame is such a schizophrenic team. You know, which is why Notre Dame will go out there against bad teams and just look like they can light the world on fire. I mean, again, let's say it again. The teams that they've played this year that are either not good or just not great defenses, they've scored 42, 56, 45, 41, 48, and 58 points. Against the teams that do have good defenses, they've scored 14, 21, where you needed a 4th and 16 conversion to get to 21.
All right.
20, where you scored a garbage touchdown. And now 23, and 7 of that came on a 2-yard drive thanks to your defense getting an interception, getting you back in the game.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you are that wildly, you're either all or nothing, there's something structurally wrong where the defense just didn't have a very good game. And Clemson had a very good game plan today. This is a much different looking Clemson team. Early on, they had some decent reads, and I thought Notre Dame settled in and adjusted, and they forced 5 straight punts to end the game. Notre Dame had the ball 5 times in the second half with a chance to tie the game. So for all the mistakes from the defense, they really only gave up 21 points, and 7 of those 21 points came on a 41-yard drive.
Yep.
Right? I'm sorry. That should be good enough to win you a football game, especially when you give your offense 5 freaking possessions to get a touchdown. Even if you just get a field goal, it takes some pressure off of the other drives. So to me, Ryan, that's different than the offense would just systemically, this happens week after week, where there's just like, okay, yeah, this looked good, but why not do this? Why are we not doing this? Because it's one of those things where when you're process driven, Ryan, you say, well, yeah, we scored a bunch of points, but we just were way better than that team. Is this going to work against Ohio State? Is this going to work against Duke? Is this going to work against Clemson? And the reality is they haven't had those self-scouting moments where they've been able to recognize, yeah, it worked here, but it won't work on a good team. And so we got to make those changes. We're not putting these guys in position to be successful, and we got to make changes. And I just feel like they haven't done that, and it's frustrating on offense.
Yep.
And special teams also suck today, by the way.
Hey, Spencer Schrader, baby, 3 for 3. Michael S., thank you for the super chat. Offense been inconsistent all year. Inexperienced offense coordinator and receiving coach cause of lack of progress. Go after the Utah pair again or someone equal. NC knows nothing about offense. Marcus Freeman, I guess is what that was supposed to say. No, head coach knows nothing about offense, needs lots of help.
I don't know what the heck that means. Is that meant to be ND? I'm not quite sure.
Carolina?
Michael just I think it. I think it. Yeah, I don't know what the heck.
Head coach, maybe it's supposed to be HC.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, that might be it, right? That might be it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, I think there's some merit to that. I mean, I think that's a big reason why he targeted Andy Ludwig last year. Don't you guys think that was because of his experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I do think. Look, I'll say this: I personally like Jared Parker. Like personally, it's kind of like what I said about Tom Rees. He's a really smart guy, but being smart doesn't necessarily make you a very good It doesn't make you a good play caller or game planner. But the fact of the matter is, you do have to look at the fact of saying you got an inexperienced offensive coordinator and an inexperienced head coach. You know, that's fair.
Sure,
that's fair. But like somebody said to me today, like Freeman screwed up by not getting a more experienced coach. I'm like, guys, he tried.
Yeah,
he really did try. Yeah,
well, that was not his mistake. That was not his error.
And what we don't talk enough about, with all due respect, I mean, I'm not trying to take too many shots at Jared Parker. I mean, at Joe Rudolph today, but that was a 2-for loss because you'd have probably brought the offensive line coach with him. So you actually missed out on 2 guys.
Yeah,
that would have been a part
That's
of that.
That's a good point.
So. Yeah.
We had a
Yep.
question from Spark5219, super chat.
Yep.
We gained nothing with Sam Hartman at quarterback. We lost giving our scholarship quarterbacks experience and time to grow.
I
mean,
mean,
that's
you still,
one way to look at it.
hindsight 2020, Vince.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, did you really like if okay, let's say that was the plan. Hey man, we're all in with Steve Angeli, and all offseason we're talking about the quote unquote big three: Ohio State, Clemson, USC, and everybody's like, yeah, Steve Angeli is gonna be the guy to win us those games.
There's not a soul in this chat
Right.
that would have thought Notre Dame would have been a very good team this year with him.
Come on. I mean,
I'll tell you what,
again,
Vince,
hindsight
if you
2020.
said that to me at the beginning of the season, if you're someone who said, like Spark, if you said this before the season, then I'll say, good call. Good call. Fine. Good call. But I think the quarterback that you felt was your franchise is still a true freshman, and then a high school senior and a high school junior. I don't think that Notre Dame views Stephen Genley as that next guy. It made total sense to go to the portal. And here's the other thing, guys. If Steve Angeli, if people talking about if they don't go get Sam Hartman, your starting quarterback this year is Tyler Buckner, who everyone in our chat didn't want anyway. It's
Correct.
not Steve Angeli, it's not Kenny Minchie. It'd have been Tyler
That's a
Buckner.
good point. Good point.
Or Drew Pine again, because Drew wouldn't have left if they wouldn't have gone in the portal to get a quarterback. That's why Drew left. So
right.
But here's the thing where I'll say this is, as far as the gaining nothing part, it's hard for me to argue against that, guys, because they're sitting here at 7-3 after 10 games when they were 7-3 last year after 10 games. So that part, I don't think he's wrong on that part. I just feel the second part I can't. I mean, that's the hindsight 2020 part for me. Is like, I think they made the right call as far as going to get Hartman. I think the wrong call was what they did with Hartman. That would be my bigger issue.
Dang, we still have that many super chats? You guys are crazy, man. Crazy.
They're coming, baby.
No, they're not crazy. They're loyal. They love it.
Joe Papidi with another one said they play like no one has the reins of the team.
I guess I kind of don't agree with that, guys. I mean, like Ryan, you and I were having a conversation during the show, and there was some complaining going on about the offensive coordinator, and we were all on the pretty much same page on some of the frustrations. Although I still say if Sam Hartman doesn't play bad, I still think they win the game even with those issues.
I do too.
But I keep saying to you all, why are we assuming this isn't the offense that Marcus Freeman wants? Like, just because it's not working doesn't mean nobody has the reins. Sometimes I feel like maybe he should kind of loosen up the reins a little bit and hire an offensive coordinator to do something a little bit. And, somebody just said Hartman's 9-3 versus Buckner 8-4. First of all, Buckner was 1-2 last year as a quarterback. Second of all, how about we actually let Notre Dame go 9-3 first?
Yeah.
Before, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Good point.
But I think we gotta look at them. Marcus Freeman has to look in the mirror a little bit, and I'm a big Marcus Freeman supporter, just like Kirby Smart had to look in the mirror after a couple years of the offense holding the program back and say we need to open up. And it took him 3 hires to get it right. Actually, 4, because Bobo, Jim Chaney. And then James, was it Coley? What was his first? Is his first name James? Right, James Coley. All those 3 guys got years as offensive coordinator before he finally went out and got Todd Monken. Hopefully, it doesn't take Marcus Freeman that long to figure it out. But he's going to have to say, "Hey guys, in this era, you've got to be more dynamic on offense. Got to be."
We had a super chat from Logan Trailer, excuse me. Sorry, Logan. Thank you so much. Clemson by far had the classiest fan base I've ever been around. Slants, curls, drags, wheels, checkdowns, non-existent today. Hard to get guys' confidence when you can't get them the ball. Love IB. I would disagree. There was a lot of drags today. They were running mesh out there.
Tons.
Today, so, yeah.
That's all they did.
Tons. Yeah. As far as Clemson, don't let the idiots that jump into the chat shade your opinion of what Clemson fans are like in real life. These are losers who like to hide behind fake names and things like that. Being at the stadium today, dealing with Clemson fans last year, I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's one of my top 5 opponent fan bases that I respect. Very cool fan. There's always a knucklehead here and there, but vast majority, including in the Notre Dame fan base. I mean, we all have them, but really cool fan base, man. Like really pleasant, just fun. I mean, they're I respect Clemson's fan base a lot. I do. Yep. I do.
Joe Pachuta, excuse me if I'm pronouncing that completely wrong, Joe. My apologies. True or false? Wake Forest has utilized Sam Hartman more than Notre Dame has. True.
And they had 5 years to get him going.
Right. Good point.
Right. But yes, I mean, yes.
At the end of the day, I think that's accurate.
Had Notre Dame brought in A.T. Perry and Taylor Marin and Donna McGreen and Keyshawn Williams, would Sam Hartman still look like he does? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, there is a level of rapport that you kind of need. Right. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
We had another one from Duder40. Thank you so much. Love IB. You guys are great. Just giving my take as a fan. How come we don't have a few design runs for Hartman? Don't do it religiously, but might open up our offense. Hartman runs helped us.
His runs today, I don't know that either one of those were. I mean, the one was a scramble on a pass play.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of my take on that first long run from Hartman?
Yeah,
I think about it. Yeah,
I think it's his decision to do it. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I don't think that was a designed RPO draw. I think he just saw that they vacated the middle and were blitzing off the edge. I thought that was a really smart decision. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I understand. I don't know that he's a runner.
I would maybe move the pocket a little bit, but I don't know about like design quarterback runs. Like I don't know about that.
Yeah, that I would agree with. I mean, that leads into the play action conversation. If you're going to do something with him to protect the run game, I still feel it needed to be RPOs, not having him run the ball. But I mean, they've done this before. I mean, remember NC State when NC State was bringing heavy pressure off the edge? They ran an RPO draw on 3rd and 10, and he ran for like 18 yards and picked up first down. So they'll do it a ton. From time to time, but it's just not something that I think is going to really, because the other thing too is if Sam Hartman's going to pull and run on the backside of a read zone, the other team's going to say, okay, we'll let you do that all day as long as Audric Estime's not getting the football or Jeremiah Love. Well, not that Jeremiah Love's getting a ton of touches now, but yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense for me. If I'm
Raymond Harton, the super chat. Thank you, Raymond. I am sad. The end.
Not feeling you, buddy.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you, Raymond.
I think it's great. That might have been the best one yet. Just want to throw that out there. That's good stuff, man.
We had Patrick S. Duffy who says, watching Sam Hartman today and lately, I want next year's quarterback to be one of the 2 guys on the roster. They deserve it, especially Kenny Minchie, who was brought in by this staff.
Well, I would say that I would throw the 3rd guy in there. I would throw CJ Carr in there and letting him compete. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but he'll be on the roster in the spring. But I don't know that they deserve it as much as it's just the way that you need to build the next couple years team. Like, I don't know. Patrick, I agree with your overall sentiment. I don't know what you guys think, but just the deserve thing is where I kind of have a little bit of a.
Yeah. Deserve. That's in the eye of the beholder, I guess. I don't know enough about their work ethic and their preparation, and you know what I mean? Like, to me, if we're talking about deserving something, that's where I need to know more, I guess, is the best. Just because you're on the roster doesn't mean you deserve to be a starter. Like I have a problem with that kind of an attitude. But overall, I agree. I think that the next starter for Notre Dame needs to be somebody that is going to be on the roster in 24 that's not a transfer. I agree with that part. I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
I'm a big believer in competition, so nothing should be promised anyone.
So, Ryan, would you say this is fair? They deserve to get an opportunity to battle for the job, but they don't deserve the opportunity to just deny the potential to better your football team if there is that kind of guy out there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it kind of comes down to. Like you and I will have a Michael Pratt show after the season, but like using Michael Pratt as an example, if the Notre Dame coaching staff views him as a guy that they think can be a championship caliber quarterback, then those kids deserve an opportunity to battle Michael Pratt for the starting job, but they don't deserve the job.
Correct.
If I'm bringing in a transfer quarterback, which full transparency would be on the table for me, just there, it would be a similar situation to you're coming in to compete for the starting quarterback job. You are not guaranteed the starting quarterback job. And if Kenny Minchie beats him out, Kenny Minchie brings him out. Cool. We're good. We're good there. So competition, man. Competition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jason Warnock with the super chat. If you are Coach Marcus Freeman, what is your offseason approach to the offense? I'm not expecting you to say it, but Jared Parker is out over his skis. Excuse me.
Well, I mean, I think we can say this confidently without getting into who needs to be calling the plays or whatever. But Marcus Freeman needs to look at his offense and say, we need to open up our offense and be more aggressive. Whether that's letting Jared Parker do that, or Gino Guidugli do that, or Chancey Stuckey do that, or Dylan McCullough do that, or Joe Rudolph do that, or Ryan Roberts do that, or Vince D'Addario do that, or some coach to be named later. That is a Marcus Freeman decision that needs to be true no matter what your feelings are about Jared Parker. That's got to stop and start at the top. If that doesn't change, it doesn't matter who the coach is at that point in time. That's the reality of it, Ryan. I
feel like this is a conversation we're going to have in the offseason, and it's going to be much deeper than just what we know now. I mean, like I just want everything to get finished out, because I know someone said like Colorado just got rid of their offensive coordinator, or at least like demoted him. Like you can do it at any time, and like sure, but like I don't think that it's something that's going to be figured out this offseason, just in general, as far as what the plan is moving forward. So
you mean in season, not going to be figured out in season?
Yeah, it's not going to be figured out in season. I think it's a postseason conversation and figuring out what's the best move next step for them.
The focus now needs to be on, you've got to get your offense rolling for your last 3 games, 2 games plus a bowl game, and you're not firing a coach for that. And demoting a coach doesn't change anything. It just, to me, creates chaos and even greater uncertainty of a group that doesn't need any more. Yeah. So whatever. It's frustrating.
Had there it is. Spark 5219. Thank you for super chat. What are the chances of Sam Hartman plays in a bowl game? I figure slim to none. Bench him. I don't think it's like the draft conversation, right? What does Sam Hartman have to lose right now? Like, I don't know, man. Like, if he's still the starting quarterback, I think he actually plays, but I could be wrong about that. I think the better question is, will Notre Dame want him to be the starting quarterback in a bowl game? I think that's more the question. I don't think it's like, because Sam Hartman's going to be a late day 3 quarterback, guys. Like, that's pretty much where he is right now. A stellar game or not stellar game is not going to make or break him being a late day 3 quarterback. I'm not talking about a kid that's going to go in the first round. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. I don't know.
I just think it's wild that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, right? We were trying to be convinced by some Notre Dame fans, that Sam Hartman was more draft ready and NFL ready, and some national analysts that Sam Hartman was more draft ready than Caleb Williams. And now like 95% of the people want him benched.
Yes.
So it's like, okay. Hey,
What's
Vince,
up,
we missed you.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Had to go quiet the dog down.
Yeah.
David Carpenter, who I think had a couple super chats already. David, what's up, man? If I'm the new athletic director, this is a good opportunity to partner with Marcus Freeman and help support him like the current AD seemingly didn't. I can hope that happens. We can all hope that happens. I agree.
Amen.
But that's a different look. This is a different take than we had from other people, which I appreciate. I will say that, David, because most people are like, new AD, get his own guy in there. Let's get rid of Freeman. Like, at least this is a logical, like, hey, let's partner and make sure that this team can be the best that they can be. Like, thanks, David, man.
Yeah.
That's a positive spin on the new athletic director to me.
Yeah. hey, coach, here, you tell me what you need to succeed,
Right.
and I'll give you some of my ideas,
Yes.
of what I
Yes.
think we need. Yes, 100%.
Right.
B Straw with the super chat. Thank you. What's more predictable in the red zone? Offense runs on first and second down, get stuffed, and throw on third down, or defense bringing an all-out blitz and having the secondary play man-to-man? I don't hate the second one because you're playing man-to-man in the red zone more often than not anyway. So that's just another conversation for another day. But
guys,
yes.
the defense didn't play great today. This defense has played lights out all year.
Right.
Lights out. No defense, not a one, is going to play lights out every single Saturday.
Correct.
Right.
I can't hit the, I'm sorry, I could not hit the unmute button. Here we are. Davis, tight end N 4609. I don't know. TN, whatever.
10.
Thank you for the super chat, though. I appreciate you, Davis. Help me back from the cliff. Can you point out a positive for today's game that you think the team can continue to build around?
Cam Harden and Benjamin Morrison were really, really good as always, and so was Xavier Watts.
Audric Estime was on pace for 160 yards. I mean, guys, like, look, let's not overreact to this one either. I mean, we told you all during the week, Clemson. I'm shocked by today's outcome. Don't get it twisted. I'm not like, oh, we told you they might lose the game, but we told you were going to get Clemson's best shot today.
Oh, sure,
and you did. We told you that this isn't a team with a bunch of scrubs. They still have talent. That does not mean that Notre Dame should have lost it. They shouldn't have. But there's still a lot, like all the things we were fired up about when they outscored their opponents 106-27 the last 2 weeks are still there, guys. They had a crappy game. I mean, that's so Davis, that would be my thing is they played like crap today. They got some things they got to figure out. They do. But this is still a team with a lot of talent. And I'll tell you this, you want to feel better today? Here's what I'll tell you to do, Ryan, and I think you'll agree with me on this. Spend the next hour as soon as the show is over. Go to your whatever web browser is and just do this for the next hour. Type in first CJ Carr huddle and then hang out and have fun watching that for a while. Then go Kedron Young huddle, HUDL, watch that for a while. Then go Aeneas Williams huddle, who nobody talks about, who scored like 40-some touchdowns again this year, right? Didn't you have like 4 more last night, Ryan?
Yeah,
right?
Playing mostly wide receiver this year, which is pretty fun.
Then go Cam Williams huddle, Micah Gilbert huddle, Logan Saldate huddle, and just Jack Larson and just keep doing that for like the next hour, and that'll help you feel better.
Yeah. Talent will be here. I talked about that earlier. Talent will be there. Just
what they do with it is the other conversation.
Yeah. Can you get the most out of it? No doubt. John A1, what's up, John? I'm shocked the pass game isn't functional with a run game that gets well above average attention. It must be because I love Notre Dame and the football lords hate me. I feel that sometimes, man. I feel that.
I feel you, buddy. I do. Somebody said, I saw something in the chat say, it's tough being a Notre Dame fan, and it really has been for a while. It just because so much of this stuff is just not necessary. It's frustrating.
Yeah. Patrick Brady, super chat. Who would be the best offensive coordinator hired Notre Dame can make this offseason to give Marcus Freeman the support he needs to continue to grow as a head coach while still playing elite football?
Whoever Marcus Freeman wants. I mean, whether it's Jared Parker or somebody else. I mean, guys, we don't. This isn't what we do. If Jared Parker is no longer the offensive coordinator, we'll talk to you about who the candidates are. Right now, Jared Parker is the offensive coordinator. And the thing they need to figure out is how, as long as he's the OC, whether it's 2 games, 3 games, or 50 more games, how can they maximize this offense? That's what needs to be figured out. And that's what Marcus Freeman's task needs to be.
Correct.
Agreed. We had another super chat from Michael S. who says, it seems Notre Dame has a history of quarterbacks who won't throw it downfield. Is it in the South Bend water? I don't know. You guys would know better. I don't know anything about that South Bend water. So
Deshaun Watson, Deshaun Kaiser didn't have any problem throwing down the field. Brandon Wimbush didn't have any problem throwing down the field. I mean, at some point in time, you guys have to just realize the fact that it's a mindset of who your offense is going to be. Are you going to be someone obsessed with don't turn it over, don't turn it over, don't turn it over to where you cripple yourself? Or yeah, I don't know, man.
John Smith, super chat, thank you. This team is so frustrating to watch. Agree sometimes. One week we look like we could play with anyone. The next you wonder if the same guy showed up. Heartbreaking.
I think that's the most. That's honestly the most frustrating part to me.
Yes.
Is that this team is like Jekyll and Hyde, right? They're one thing when they're at home, and they're another thing when they're on the road, and it's extremely frustrating. I mean, they were a play away from losing to Duke on the road, right? They played like garbage against Louisville on the road. They played bad against Clemson on the road. But they played like world beaters at home. So, I don't know. Maybe they just need to play all their games at NC State instead. I don't know what the solution is, but
I've often wondered that does Notre Dame still look like they did if they don't get that long weather delay where they were kind of go regroup at the beginning of the second quarter? I mean, you have to ask yourself that. What's the one anomaly on offense this year?
Right.
It was a game where they were getting the first quarter against NC State looked a lot like what we saw today.
Yeah.
And then they come out of the break and, see some things, and then they, make some adjustments and go make some plays. But yeah, I just
it's frustrating.
You beat a Pitt team 58-7 that beat Louisville, who beat you, and is currently midway through the third quarter down to Florida State 10-7, and they got it fourth down in Florida State. They got a chance to tie the freaking game in the third quarter against Florida State, and you beat it by 50. And then you show up and do this today. It's freaking frustrating, man.
Look, the most frustrating thing about this season is what could have been if Notre Dame just takes care of business. Because even the scores today, the scores that I'm seeing today, and some of them aren't final, obviously, and some of them ended up winning and all of those things. But like Oklahoma's in trouble. Georgia was in trouble. I don't know what the score is now.
They're up 11 now. Yeah.
Okay. Florida State was in trouble. Like, there's so much parity at the top that this is unlike any other season that I can remember where I've actually followed college football outside of my own team. You know what I mean? Like, this was the year to make waves if you are a non-traditional blue blood, right? And I think Notre Dame's, I'm not going to have that conversation, but like the Alabamas, the Clemsons of the world, like this was the year to make your case. And Notre Dame has stubbed their toe 3 times now,
right?
And they're not able to do that.
And the whole thing about winning is hard. It is, which is why you need to always be making sure that you are doing everything possible to maximize the talent of your football team. And I just don't feel like Notre Dame. And it's been true for a long time.
Agreed.
Greatest comment ever in the chat. Someone said, "Is Xavier Watts our leading receiver?" And I thought that was fantastic, and I chuckled. I will not lie to you.
I'm pretty sure that I have to go look at the stats, but how long was his return
for today?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember.
30 something yards.
That got him close to matching the total number of passing yards Notre Dame had in the first half. It was like 55, and that's only because of that last drive of the quarter when they got a bunch on that last field goal drive.
Well, I mean, I'll say this, which is very disheartening, but Jeremiah Trotter Jr. may have had the longest reception off of Sam Hartman today.
28 yards. I actually think that's accurate,
second,
Ryan.
Second longest. I think Rico had a 35er, right?
Okay.
35er.
Yeah, and then So second longest. Caught the only touchdown pass from Sam Hartman today, right?
That's accurate. Sadly accurate. What's also sadly accurate is that Sam Hartman has 0 touchdown passes in the last 2 games.
Yep.
Well, he's only got one in the
18?
last 3.
We got 18 on the season. The guy that came in with 110.
He threw 2 against USC. Okay. And he had the one to Jabron Payne. I was forgetting the Jabron Payne one. Yeah. In the last 6 games, Sam Hartman has 5 passing touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That's not all on Sam Hartman. I'm sorry.
No, but
it's not all on the young receiving core. No, Vince. I'm not saying you're.
Yeah.
I'm adding to the fact of how frustrating it is.
Yeah, it's still facts though. I mean, that's still the stat line, right? I mean, yeah.
Fun times. Next super chat. It's coming up. Maybe.
Oh,
it's up.
Got it.
It just popped up for me. AST
Oh.
12-321 just popped up. This game was so frustrating. D kept trying to make the take the game back, and Jared Parker and Sam Hartman said, "No, thanks."
And the O-line. And yeah, I mean, yeah, the running back pass pro was god awful today. I mean, in the second half, like just whiffing on guys. I mean, losing their technique. And that's the thing, is like they've been really good about that most of the year. And they just went away from what had worked for them. I don't know if they didn't want any part of Jeremiah Trotter or not, but it was super
Patrick
chat from
S.
Patrick. Yeah,
Dove.
go ahead, Rye. Sorry, man.
Oh, no. Super sticker from Patrick S. Dovey. Thank you so much, Patrick. We had Patrick Flanagan with the super chat. We have been wandering in the forest since 1993, and I'm not getting any younger. Shout out to my fellow school administrator, Vince.
What's up? What's up, my fellow?
I do feel that way, though, right?
Walkie-talkie carrying friend. That's okay.
Walkie-talkie. Vince, you just said walkie-talkie. You've got to go watch the Brian Regan skit about walkie-talkies.
Done. I love
it's
him.
a great skit. He's talking about it. It was, I guess, coined by the military. And he's
really?
How does an organization that comes up with like the Tomahawk missile, the cruise missile, come up with walkie-talkie? We're walking, we're talking. You know, it's like,
yeah, as before cell phones, man.
Yeah,
this is a walkie-talkie right here.
Yeah, look it up. It's a great skit. It's a great skit.
ZF with the super chat. In your opinion, what is the biggest problem with the pass game? Blocking, receivers, Hartman, or play calling? Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say all of the above, so I was out of the mix on that one.
If I had to order those, I would go play calling, Hartman, receivers, blocking. I would just reverse that. I think
I would too. That would be my order as well.
Right. Andrew Van with the super chat. Thank you so much, sir. What are the real problems with wide receiver in the offensive line? I feel like this team is driven by emotions. When high, the emotions are low, opposite for low.
What are the real problems? I kind of feel like that question is asking like we're holding something back, but we're not telling you.
Yeah.
They're not playing guys in the right spot. They're not playing the right guys. The quarterback won't look at certain guys. I mean, when there's certain players in the field, he will not look at the number 2 tight ends. He will not look at Tobias Merriweather. Yep. He will not. I mean, he refuses to read the defense. They're not using guys correctly. They're relying on freshmen to do things to me that they were really good complementary players early and they played well. You've thrown them into, you got to be the dudes now, and they're not playing well.
And that's a really good call, because early on in the season, when Greathouse was Greathouse, when he was this amazing guy coming in, true freshman, blah, 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 he wasn't starting. Like, he wasn't being asked to be the dude. He was being asked to complete some very simple things, but do it at a high level. It's like Marcus Freeman said in his press conference. You want to do a few things at 10, but he doesn't want to do a lot of things at a 7, right? Well, right now, he's asking these freshman wide receivers to do a lot of things at a 7.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just bottom line.
Part of it's Jaden Thomas got hurt. I get it.
For sure.
And I get it.
Yep.
But, yeah. And you didn't have Mitchell Evans. I mean, look, they're those, but that's part of the game. I mean, when you lost to this Clemson team with all the guys they had out today, I don't hear crap about you lost because you didn't have Mitchell Evans.
Yeah. They had like 10 starters out today.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Wild. Yeah. We had Mike Nolan says, is Sam Hartman and team better if Tommy Rees is still offensive coordinator? Why are we doing this? Seems like he has been coached backwards. I'm going to be honest here. I don't care. I don't care about Tommy Rees anymore. I don't care if it would be better with Tommy. I'm sorry. I don't care. All due respect, Mike. I know you paid money for it. I'm sorry, but I just really don't care about this question. I'm sorry. I know that's disrespectful, but I don't care.
And they weren't better last year. So,
right.
I mean,
how
many guys, they scored 21 points on offense last year, and 7 of them came on a 14-play drive. Like, this was, if anything, they were the same.
Notre Dame wasn't good enough last year offensively either. Why am I comparing a offense that wasn't good enough last year to an offense that isn't good enough this year? Why am I making that comparison?
Amen. I mean, Mike, neither were good enough.
It's a mic drop moment.
I mean, neither were good enough. No, he's spot on.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I nailed it.
Like,
Patrick
let me
gets
ask you this
stuff.
question, Ryan. So this is basically what you're saying. If Tom Reese doesn't leave for Alabama, Notre Dame is still sitting here, most likely at 7-3.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah, probably.
More than likely. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I don't know, maybe 8-2, but again,
We were literally saying all last year that the offense needs to get better under Tommy Reese. He needs to mature as a play caller. He needs to get better at this, better than that. It's the same conversation we're having with Jared Parker right now. It's not. There's no difference. There's no
Right.
difference in this conversation.
And go ask an Alabama fan if they think that the offense is better with Tommy Reese there.
Patrick S. Duffy. I'm sorry, I forgot the new super chat was up. If you don't start Hartman, it is telling the team this game isn't important. I don't agree with that at all.
I don't agree with that in any way, shape, or form. What are you talking about? He's a captain. He's your captain.
Look, okay, let me just say this. He's saying if you don't start Hartman, he's saying that he's saying basically if you bench Hartman, you're telling the other that's how I take it. If
I misread. I apologize, Patrick.
Yeah, I think you guys took it as if you start Hartman, you're telling.
Yes.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But no, he's saying the opposite. Basically saying if you bench him, you're saying that the game's not important.
My bad, Patrick.
Patrick, if anything, I would say I can understand where Patrick's coming from, but I would say the opposite, which is everyone is held accountable for their preparation and performance, and there's no special like Audric Estime got benched early in the year because he fumbled a football. Tobias Merriweather got benched because he dropped a couple balls. Sam Hartman's thrown 7 interceptions in the last and lost a fumble or 2 in the last 5-6 games. If anything, it would say, hey, guys, I don't care who you are. Captain, whatever. If you don't play well enough, you're going to get benched. I think it would send but I also think it would depend on how you're delivering the message. That's the other part of it too. But like again, we're not calling for him to be benched, but I do think it's time to think twice about do we need to have those other guys ready in case he comes out against if he comes out against Wake and he's ripping it up, let him keep ripping it up. But if he comes out against Wake and he looks like he has most of the last month, make a change.
Yeah. Right. Agreed.
And you got an extra week to get that ready. You got to buy. We got to wallow in this crap for 2 weeks. Oh,
God, it's going to be fantastic. Thank God for high school football.
Charlie Weiss's last belt loop. My bad, guys. I took a nap and feel better now. But side comment, who would have thought Drew Pine would have more touchdowns in a season than Sam Hartman? It might be trending that way. Thanks, guys. You rock. Yeah, because Pine threw 23 last year, right? So,
I'm looking it up now because I don't think that's going to. I mean, I don't know how I would. Let me look. Just give me a second. I'm going to look it up. All right. So Sam Hartman has right now 18 passing touchdowns. Drew Pine had 22. So, 22. And Drew did that in a really 10 starts because he played in 11 games, but one of those games was coming off the bench late against Marshall where he got hurt. So, I mean, if you think about it, Drew Pine started 10 games last year and he threw 22 touchdown passes. And Sam Hartman has started 10 games this year and he's thrown 18 touchdown passes. That's a problem.
That's a huge problem. If you'd have told me that was going to happen, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah. And they both had 2 rushing touchdowns. So you can't be like, well, Sam's ran from nope.
Wow.
Nope. Now, part of that too is that this is that they've been at times a much more explosive rushing team, which has resulted in a lot more big gains. The other part of it too that you have to look at is Notre Dame rarely played their backup quarterback last year. Like rarely.
Yeah. This
year, Steve Angeli has 3 touchdown passes, and there have been times where Sam Hartman barely got out of the third quarter. It didn't even get out of the third. Steve Angeli got a series in the third quarter last week. That's part of it too. I mean, how many blowouts did Notre Dame have last year where they pulled the starter? It's like 3, 2 the whole year. That's part. I mean, that's going to factor into it a little bit, but it doesn't justify it much. Just maybe he'd have 20. But here's the thing: even if what I just said, Ryan, resulted in him having as many as Drew Pine, it doesn't change the point at all of what Charlie's saying here. It's still a problem.
It's bad. It's still a big problem, no doubt. Garth Cassidy, what's up, Garth? Haven't seen you in a while, guys. I have a question. Is lineup under center and more better for running or being in the shotgun better? Seems line fires off ball better under center.
I don't think that necessarily has any impact on it. My personal opinion. I think it's more about the plays that you call under center compared to plays you call under shotgun.
I feel like they've done like some type of study on this, and it actually is pretty even, Garth. If I remember correctly, I don't think it's that much of a difference, but as far as like success rate and yards per carry, that type of thing. Just your ordinary Joe. That guy at the bottom, middle sounds like Brian. I just don't recognize him. Vince or Ryan, take the super chat to the IB merch store and get that guy a hat. Sorry, figured we could all use a laugh. Nice.
Okay. That was
Very
a good
good,
one.
Joe.
There we go. Here, he's got his hat on now.
There you go, Joe.
That was pretty funny. I haven't seen Just Your Ordinary Joe in forever, man.
Last couple
up,
times
Joe?
he's given a super chat. I don't think you were on the show, Vince.
That's awesome. What's up, Joe? I miss Joe.
Love Joe. Yeah. Sorry
Trevor
about that,
Rocket. Trevor Rocket, our friend from Canada. Brian, Ryan, and Vince. It's on days like this. I'm thankful for IB and IB Nation. Call me old school, but 9-3 is better than 7-5. Really intrigued to see what happens over the final two games. Payback against Stanford. I agree. 9-3 is better than 7-5.
Hey,
No doubt
Trevor,
about it.
with what you're going through, buddy, any chance you get to talk about football? And I am all on board with you looking for things to be excited about, man, and happy about, and then looking at the positives, because that's something you absolutely need right now. And just so you know, we are definitely still praying for your wife, buddy. Definitely, for sure. Hope she's having a good day today.
Jonathan Gabrick in the third and fourth quarters. Number 5 toasted this dude on a vertical outside the numbers, and number 10 looked right at him and would not pull the trigger. 10 is so in his head right now.
That happened multiple times in the second half.
Yeah, man.
Multiple times. And he would not throw the ball. And then the one he does throw is like 10 yards underthrown.
Yeah.
So just I don't get it.
That one looked like he threw it
Let me say
straight up
this.
in the air.
If somebody said to me, well, maybe he's not catching the ball in practice, then don't put him on the field. Like,
Right.
seriously, don't put him on the field. If he's not going to catch the ball to the point where the quarterback won't even look at him, then don't put him on the field.
Because now you're playing with 10.
Eli Raritan. Seriously, literally, put Eli Raritan or Cooper Flanagan out there and just throw jump balls to him. Seriously, if you have to do that. But if the quarterback refuses to look at an outside receiver who's toasting dudes in the second half because he doesn't think he can catch or whatever reason you want to come up with, then don't put him on the field. Don't put him on the field.
TD Brammy thank you for the super chat. Would you try any of the offensive position coaches at play caller? Would love to see Parker succeed, but there's no substance in his play calling lately.
Not with 2
The only
games
one-
to go.
So what well, yeah, I mean, you're not going to do it this season. I think to the question though, like you have 2 guys on the staff that have experience calling plays, right? One is Joe Rudolph that we've talked about before, and the other is Gino Guidugli. Those are the 2 guys that have called plays. So I don't know if that's a route, but
Joe
those are the
Rudolph got
guys that have
fired
called
as the offensive coordinator of Wisconsin, and Gino Guidugli, when Luke Fickell left for Wisconsin, felt it was better to go get Phil Longo than to take Gino Guidugli with him and promote him to offensive coordinator there. So I don't think that those are the answers. If you don't think Jared Parker's the guy, then go get an elite offensive.
Go get a guy
proven.
Yeah.
Don't disagree.
Jared Parker. I mean, look, Gino Guidugli was an OC for 1 year. That means if you were to promote him and Jared Parker would have the same exact numbers. So I just Cincinnati last year averaged 29 points a game, folks. Their last, for 7 games of the year, they scored 29 points or less against 20 against South Florida, 29 against SMU, 21 against UCF, 20 against Navy, 27 against ECU, 23 against Temple, 24 against Tulane. If you're going to replace Jared Parker, then go get the best you can get. Right now, however, the focus is going to be on Jared. It's your job to get this offense rolling. You got 2 weeks to get it right. Get it right.
We had Alan Watson says, "Can someone teach these kids to wrap up and tackle?" It's very frustrating, man, because it hasn't been a issue every single game. It's
The
just
last 2 games have been
popping up in
great.
random spots. Yeah, I
The
know. It's
open field
weird, man.
tackling the last 2 games have been fantastic.
And you were great against USC, who's pretty dynamic at the skill position, and then you play against Clemson, who's not dynamic at the skill position, and you miss tackles in space a ton. It doesn't make much sense. It's kind of weird.
Make Phil Maffa. I'm still upset about this. The last 2 weeks, this football team ran for 132 yards. Now, I want to make sure that I'm clear on that so you guys are understanding me. Not 132 yards per game. In the last 2 weeks against NC State and Miami, Clemson ran for 132 yards combined in those 2 games, and you made Phil Maffa look like the flippin' Doak Walker Award winner. 186 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's something that, look, for all the great things that Al Golden has done this year, and he's done a lot, and same with Marcus Freeman from 2 years ago, they got to find some answers in the run defense because this team is just – that's the one weakness that this football team has, is they're just not a real good run defense. This team is not good at running the football, Clemson. They're not.
They were today.
Spark 5219 says Army 2-6 beat Air Force, who was 8-0. Go Army, beat Navy, Air Force 6 turnovers and no touchdowns. That's wild.
Well, that'll do it.
They beat him convincingly. Like, I was just looking at scores, guys. It was not close.
It's really weird.
It was I think 23-3.
23-3.
Yeah. It was,
and Air Force kicked
close.
a field goal in the second quarter. And it was 23-3 at halftime. There was no score in the second half.
That's crazy.
It's really weird.
It's probably like 2 possessions.
Michael Porton with a super chat. As whole, the defense has been great most of the year, but when the defense isn't at their best, the offense is never there to step up. The defense covered up a lot of bad offense this year. I agree, Michael, because I think that the last 2 games, especially USC and Pittsburgh, I think they hid the fact that the offense wasn't really playing that well. It was better than it had been, but it still wasn't great, right? So I think it hit some warts how good the defense was at times this year.
Well, it absolutely hit warts because, in the USC game, the defense put them in position to be successful. A lot of short short yardage situations, short drives, whatever. But the offense did cash in on those. They did what they were supposed to do, right? You can't hey, you know what? We're going to start 50 yards that way. And so it's a more successful offensive drive. I mean, they scored touchdowns when they were supposed to against USC. I thought that they were better, in the last game against Pitt. But, I mean, everything was going your way against Pitt. I mean, a lot of momentum. Everything was going your way. It was great. But you're right. The defense did cover up some offensive warts. There's no doubt about it.
I'm trying to find this stat that I had today, guys, which just kind of blew my mind a little bit. In the first 4 games of the year, Notre Dame averaged 46 points a game. In the last 2 games, Notre Dame averaged 53 points per game. In between that period of time, Notre Dame averaged 18.3 points per game, and they scored 23 today, but again, 7 of that came on a short field. What's the one thing all those teams have in common that they played against? They were all top 35 defenses. So to your point, Ryan, the Notre Dame defense definitely masks some things, and then the Notre Dame offense just could go out talent certain people, and when they couldn't out talent you, they had problems.
Yep,
that's a sign of a not good offense. It may be a talented offense, but not a good one.
Right.
We had Throwing Hands Irish said, "We gonna be all right." Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I always like positivity. I do. There's something to be said for that.
Trevor Rockets with another one. Brian, Ryan, and Vince. What do you want to see these last 2 regular season games from this team? I know expectations have not been met this season, but as a fan, I want to see this team finish strong.
I want to see them play pissed off the next 2 games. I want to see this team have a little bit of fight.
Yeah. Yep. Because we heard all friggin' telecast about Clemson, how they were playing for pride. That we're playing for pride, and that's stronger than playing for a national championship. Okay, first of all, but anyway.
Somebody actually said that?
Oh, they
Oh yeah,
did.
they said yeah. It was the
100%.
announcer. It was
Yeah.
what was the sideline reporter said that yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not playing for they're not playing for a playoffs berth anymore or a national championship, but they're playing for something more important. Pride.
It's ridiculous. But
I don't know.
Notre
I'd
Dame's
have a
playing for-
lot of pride if I won a national championship.
Yeah, exactly. But Notre Dame is playing for pride now. They are. Like they're in a position where I want to see how this team plays now that those big juicy carrots aren't in front of them anymore.
Juicy.
Ryan, I'm going to say this to you, and I want to get your immediate response to it. If I'm Marcus Freeman, the next 3 weeks, including the bye week, I'm evaluating everything. And It's not about, okay, the offense goes out and scores 40-plus points a game against two not very good football teams. I don't care about that. We already know they can do that. It's more about, I want to see who's going to fight. I kind of feel like it's like the Lou Holtz thing at the end of the '87 season when they come in from the bowl game, they get their butt kicked, and Chris Zorich is over there sobbing. He didn't even play. Like who has that pride? Who has that fire? Who's going to be pissed off, or who's going to be like, well, our season's over with? Yeah. And I'm going to be, and this is going to be true of coaches and players, and I'm going to be making some big major decisions this offseason based on that, because this team needs more of that. The fact that this team, half of the team, and I don't think the defense didn't want to be there. It's like the Louisville game. They played hard. They just didn't play well.
Sure.
But just to watch the offense and I don't know. I mean, the offense came out right away and went right down the field and pushed Clemson around. I don't think it wasn't like Louisville. It's just, why can't you focus? Why can't you be locked in? Why can't you execute when you're not in perfect conditions on your home stadium? And I'm going to want to find some answers. And these next 3 weeks are going to be my time for that. And I'm making personnel decisions in my coaching ranks and my player rank based on that. It's not about the stats and the numbers. It's about how you go about your business, what your attitude is like. Am I off base there, Ryan?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that when you don't have anything really to play for, I mean, you're playing for a bowl win at this point. I mean, it's evaluation time, and you're still.
Yep.
Look, man, there's been a lot of positives with some freshmen this year, right? So I think that there's still some young guys that can potentially compete down the stretch, and you can make some decisions, and things can be figured out, at least kind of setting the table for the offseason. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything to lose right now. Yeah, Jackson Rich, super chat. Thank you, sir. Love IB Nation. Whatever happens to Parker, how does this impact recruiting, if at all, if he stays or goes?
I mean, it would depend on who they hire, but
yeah,
these kids are more committed to Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman than they are. It's the same thing when Tommy Rees left. There's all that. Well, who's going to leave the jump out of the class? Nobody did.
Right.
Yeah. Nobody
did.
And
Tommy Rees had a much bigger hand in putting the 2024 offensive class together than Jared Parker. And that's not a shot at Jared Parker at all. A lot of that gets done when they're sophomores and juniors, is my point, right? And Tommy Rees didn't leave until these kids were, committed, and Cam Williams, CJ Carr, Aeneas Williams, Jack Larson, Peter Jones. A lot of those guys were being recruited by Notre Dame when Tommy Rees was here and had already committed. So, and then when he left, they didn't leave. The point is, it's not to take a shot at Jared Parker. It's just to show those guys didn't cut bait, and I don't think they would do it now. But part of it would just be depend on who you went out and got. That's why if you, I'll leave that for the offseason. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
And Diana Jones, very funny. What's the record of Notre Dame if Steve Angeli or Tyler Buchner is a starter this year? Quarterbacks aren't the problem.
I don't know. And QB is a problem. It's part of the problem. It's not the problem. He's part of the problem. He's part of the problem. We established that. Who knows what the record would be? Buckner's not even playing football right now, and Steve Angeli.
Neither one of those guys are even starting
college football.
They're not even starters in college football right now for either team that they play for.
Right.
So we said they won in spite of those kids last year, with the exception of Tyler against South Carolina, and even then he still had to overcome the picks. But look, here's what I know: after 10 games last year, the record was 7-3, and after 10 games this year, the record's 7-3. That's what I know, and I have no clue. No clue. Like to her point, though. I mean, it depends on what she's saying here. If you're saying like quarterbacks aren't the problem, meaning like there's much more afoot here, then sure. Then she had a follow up saying talent will be here, but the OC doesn't know how to use it. I mean, I think that's kind of where her point's coming from, pointing to the last couple of years. And sure, okay. I mean, maybe there's some merit to that. I right now, the way I'm feeling right now, I can't disagree with you with what we've seen. But
Sure.
quarterback is still the problem because at the end of the day, Jared Parker's calling plays today that are getting receivers open, and the quarterback's not throwing the ball.
Like I said, he's part of the problem. He's not the problem.
We're looking for too many easy outs. We're looking for too many scapegoats instead of saying, like, there's a lot of things that got to get fixed. And it's not always just this guy or just that guy or just this guy. You know, it's like it's a little bit of all of it, including it's Marcus Freeman. He's the head football coach. If Brian Kelly was still the head football coach and the offense was going through what it's going through right now, we'd be hammering him.
Yep.
And Coach Freeman deserves that same criticism because ultimately he's the head football coach.
Correct.
Logan Trailer with another one. Thank you, Logan. If we win out and win the bowl game, how do you feel about the season? Any better? Don't know if it feel any better about it knowing what we do now. Yeah, I feel the same. I'm disappointed. Yeah.
Still feel like crap. I feel like crap. Not saying
You're
team
the
is
same
crap.
team you
I'm
were
saying,
last year,
yeah.
Vince, except you replaced Marshall with Tennessee State. That's exactly how I would look at it. That's exactly how I would look at the season. You replaced Marshall for Tennessee State, and then you were the same exact team in every other game, essentially. Right? Schedule was a little harder this year. That's okay.
You're such a poet, Vince. Still feel like crap. Love it, man.
I mean, it's not exactly the same because when you look at the losses, I don't think there's a loss as bad as Stanford on there.
Record's still the same. Yeah,
I get that.
You're spot on, Vince. They had two terrible losses. At least they learned how to win at home.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's
so
a
far,
positive.
So far.
Wait, where is it? Oh, gosh, I can't find my bell. I was going to ring you a bell. I don't know where it is.
There it is. They still got to play Stanford.
They can play at home now.
Yeah, they still got to play. They still got to play Stanford. So let's see if they do beat Stanford.
That's a good point. Good point. I'm not counting my victories until they're hatched. That's for darn sure.
Yeah. Look, no matter what they do from here on out, it's a disappointing season for me. It doesn't mean that they can't.
It is.
If they blow out the next two games and then blow somebody out in the bowl game, okay.
Look, we said going into the year 10-2 was the basement, was like the floor, right? Well, they're not going to be 10-2. So it's a disappointment. We can't go back on what we said. It's a disappointment.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
This team had 9 starters who were 5th or 6th year seniors.
Right.
And several other seniors.
Like, it doesn't mean you can't take some positive things from a disappointing season.
Sure.
But you can also be disappointed at the same time.
This team underachieved, and no matter what they do the next 3 games, that story doesn't change. Am I being too negative, Ryan, with that comment? I mean, this team is not going to be as good as it should have been, no matter what happens against a 4-5 Wake Forest team, a 3-6 Stanford team, or whatever team they get in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Right? Yeah. And I don't mean that as a shot. I met the guy at the Pop-Tarts Bowl today. Really cool dude. And I told him he needs to come up with a shirt that has like a snake of all the names of what that, because he had like a Pop-Tarts Bowl thing. And I'm like, people think that it's some bowl they've never heard of. And I'm like, it's the Russell Athletic Bowl. It's the Camping World Bowl. It's the Champ Sports Bowl. And so they should have logos of all what they've been, like on a snake and on his shirt, so people understand it. But still, that's not a bowl game you should have been in this year. I mean, it's not. Yep. Gator Bowl's not a bowl game you should be in this year. It's just not.
It's not.
It's disappointing.
Super disappointing. Orlando's getting boring.
I know, right?
GFS with a super chat. When y'all film study this Jared Parker offense, do y'all see something he is trying to do? Does he set up anything? Try to get mismatches?
It's a good question.
Ryan, this is something you and I have talked a lot about this year, and it's a very good question. But no, my big concern is I just don't see, like, being a good offensive play caller is about, you're always kind of a step ahead. You're always thinking a couple steps ahead. There's always a method. Sometimes the call is we just got to move the chains on 3rd and 1. Sometimes that is just the call. But even then, I want to do it based off our preparation and kind of see how they respond to it. Because if they play it a certain way, I know next time I get in that situation in the 2nd and 1 or 3rd and 1, I may have a shot I want to take because of the way that they're. But there's always like some sort of thinking ahead going on, right? It's a chess game, and And I don't play chess, but I've been told by people, this is why I like to use this analogy, that a great chess players are always kind of thinking a couple moves ahead, right? And that to me is how a great offensive coordinator needs to be, Vince. And so no, I don't. There's just not a lot of rhyme or reason to what they do.
There were times where I thought that was the case. Like there's games we've broken down where it's like, okay, we see the plan, we see the agenda here, but it's not consistent, and that's my.
It's against
biggest
like Central
issue.
Michigan.
Yeah,
it's against
And
those teams, not.
and it shouldn't matter. That shouldn't. The opponent shouldn't matter with how you set up your game plan and how you call plays. That shouldn't matter. And that's always been my argument. Everybody's like, oh, well, of course the offense looked good in those first 4 opponents.
Right.
But it wasn't just the outcome of it. It was the manner in which plays were set up and how things were going. And it's like, and that just went away. And I think, to me, that's the most frustrating part, is I've seen it, but I'm not seeing it now.
Yeah.
Geo Irish, sorry if asked earlier. Issued Marcus Freeman's clock management at the end of the first half. Notice he was already defeated at the interview at the half.
You guys said that to me. I didn't listen to it, but Vince, you texted me that.
Yeah, he didn't look. He basically rattled off every single possible thing that a football coach could be upset with, and he said that's what they need to get better on. And then, he's talking about the clock management. He had timeouts that in his pocket that he didn't use to try to get the ball back and make a play. I asked Ryan this question, and I'm going to ask you now. Beginning of the season, Marcus Freeman would have called a timeout there. And he said the reason he would have done it is because he had faith in his offense and the quarterback to go down and get some points. Do you think he lacks confidence in his offense and his quarterback?
Oh, certainly. But I think that circumstance was a little bit different.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember the specific scenario, but I believe he did call a timeout, right?
He let about a minute go off the clock, give or take, without calling a timeout.
Right. But let me go down.
And
he
could have forced a punt. Could have forced a punt at the end of the half. They could have gotten the ball.
So Clemson got the ball to start 1:32, correct? Freeman called a timeout at 1:05 on 2nd and 5. And then they converted 3rd and 2. They only had 1 timeout, right? Or two. They had 2 timeouts, right?
They had two.
But the reality is Clemson had just gotten a first down to get the ball out to the 36. You can't stop the clock enough. You only have 2 timeouts left, and they just converted a first down. So, I mean, to me, I kind of felt like he was hoping to save a timeout for that last drive because of there was 1:32 left. Like they run it once, gets down to 1:05. You call a timeout on the second play, and I also felt like you're also got to read what your opponent is doing. And I didn't feel like Clemson was giving vibes of we're going to run it out the clock. I think Clemson was giving vibes of let's see if we can get on this first couple plays. And then after the second play, like the first play, Clemson looked like they were trying to catch them real quick. And then they kind of got up somewhat quickly. And as I said, they snapped the ball kind of quickly, right? I mean, they snapped the ball. The drive started at 1:32. And if I'm correct in reading this, the second ball got snapped at with 1:10 left, right? So they didn't use all the clock. So I'd have to go back and study it again, Vince, just to to make sure that this data is correctly. But I understood that one because they had already used a timeout earlier. They only had 2 left, and they converted a 3rd down after the Notre Dame called a timeout. They came back out and they converted a 3rd and 2. He couldn't stop the clock. But now you potentially give Clemson a shot to say now that they're at like the 36, almost to the 40-yard line, you stop the clock again. They had a timeout left. All of a sudden, now do they take a shot? You're already down 24-9. You know what I mean? Like, in that instance, I didn't have a huge problem with it, to be honest with you.
Andy Roach 1, thanks for the super chat. what to feel good about. On the road, down 3 scores, you have 2 TD drives and 5 defensive stands. The players did not quit or be embarrassed. Bad field position and 10 points off of turnovers. Done. I agree with all of that except for the fact that you had 5 defensive stands. The problem is you gave it back to the offense and then they gave it right back. Like, that's like reading between the lines here. Yes, those are all things that you can feel good about, I suppose. 5 defensive stands are great, but that's 5 times that the offense didn't move the football.
I mean, and Vince, it's not even, it's the bad field position. That's fine. Hold on.
Yeah, the bad field position was terrible. They needed to flip the field, and I said that on numerous occasions, and they kept getting the ball inside the 10, and it was over and over and over again, and it was tough. But they needed to get the ball out of there and at least flip the field so that they could punt down to their 10 and then maybe have a chance after the next possession. But they couldn't move the ball. They could not move the ball, and then they kept getting the ball back inside their own 10-yard line. That there's plenty to feel good about, I suppose, but you can't feel good about the fact that the offense can't move the ball and you can't flip the field yourself. You had 5 drives to flip the field.
And they didn't do it once.
And you couldn't do it one time. Time. That's super frustrating to me. Like, I'm not asking you to go 90. I'm not
Every
even asking
time,
you to,
all 5
I'm not
times.
asking you to do that. Go 30 and then get your guy to punt it down to their 10. And they couldn't even do that. That part was frustrating to me.
There's a lot on there that they didn't quit. They never quit. He's correct on that.
Yeah,
they did.
Sure.
The defense did everything they could in the second half to get them back in that game.
They forced a fumble, for goodness sakes. Like, yeah, I agree. They did everything they could at the end.
It's my guy,
Brian Felton, thanks for the super chat. I don't know about the wives, but you guys could use some flowers. Rough game. Thanks for providing an outlet for us to vent and for bringing it every week. Thanks for all you guys do. Go Irish and go IB.
Appreciate you, Brian. I thanks for that. I'm not a flowers guy.
Me neither. Flowers die.
Yeah. I got Angela on a flower subscription now, Vince. There's actually this really cool site called books.com. They make like a monthly subscription and they'll like deliver flowers every month and you get to pick what you want. Or they'll pick it for you, but then you can change it. So that's been really, really, really good. BOUQS.com. I think it
sounds like what rich people do, Brian.
No, it's not that expensive at all. It's just whether or not you think your wife is worth it. Boom.
Oh, wow.
So, okay. I'm not a flower guy, but I do appreciate you, Brian. We're always going to answer the bell. Like Vince, I was told you guys do the show. I didn't even want to do it today. I was like, Vince and Ryan are going to do it.
I believe me. I
But,
was feeling the same. Somebody texted me,
you
like,
know what?
I don't know how you go do a show right now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to.
But I was like, you know what? I need to step up and do it. Like, I probably wouldn't have jumped on if they'd have won. I'll just let you guys handle it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I felt like it'd come across as like I was hiding or not willing to jump on and be critical. Or I was like, you know what? I need to step up and do it.
Jim DeMathis, thank you very much for the super sticker. Much appreciated.
And by the way, when I was responding earlier in the chat to people, I was driving. My dad's like, can you please pull over and let me drive? And I'm like, I got it. He's like, no, you don't. So I'm like in the chat, like listening to the show, like driving. I'm like losing it, in traffic right now. And so I was like,
that's
yeah,
hilarious.
I need to get there and do it.
Ian Johnson with the super chat. Thank you very much. Our offense is better than Iowa, only up 7-0 with 5 minutes.
That's not saying a whole lot.
That's not saying much, man. I'm pretty sure my son's high school team is better than
Vince, Notre Dame's offense is better than a lot of teams. It's just not championship worthy.
Correct.
That's the standard.
Yeah. There's 130 teams.
If Iowa had Notre Dame's offense, they'd be undefeated right now. Because scoring 20 and 14 and 17 in some of these games gets them W's. But yeah, it's just not championship worthy, but I like that take. I mean, that's a terrible.
There's always somebody in worse shape than you. I mean,
there's a lot of people in worse shape.
Just go watch Cops or something. Like you'll feel good about your life. Aiden Benami. I know I butchered that. I apologize.
You're close. You're
Aiden
close.
Benami. All right, let Minchie get some reps now. It's his time. The problem is he's third string, and you're not.
But you can. I mean, you can. You can say, hey, we're going to get him some reps. You can, and I would, but they're not going to. This conservative coaching staff, are you kidding me? They're not going to put a true freshman out there. Now, they should, though. That's the thing. Is if you're going to play for the future, play for the future. Play them both. I'm not saying Steve shouldn't play. I'm saying play them both.
Okay. All right. I see where you're coming.
Yeah. Especially if you make a move. Like I would not if they decided to move on from Sam, or maybe Sam just decided, you know what, like, you know, it's time to play the young. Let's say Sam walked in and was like, Coach, man, I didn't get it done. It's time to play the young guys, right? Does the whole Rudy puts his jersey? I think it's time for Steve and Sam and Kenny. Let's just say hypothetically, he said it's their time and I screwed up. Whatever. I mean, took the high road and showed, you know, all leadership, whatever. Not that he'd ever do that because he wants to compete. I'm just making a point.
I'm just making a point. Yep.
Then they should play both of those kids, Steve and Kenny, not just one. I mean, because look, I think Steve Angeli has earned the right to get a shot to play. He's actually gone out in the field and done it. Now, I don't care about backup minutes, but you know what? When he's gotten in there backup minutes,
Yeah.
he's played really well.
He has.
And he deserved, he has earned, he doesn't deserve it. He has earned that opportunity. Whatever I may feel about his ability to be a championship quarterback, doesn't matter. He has earned the right to get that shot if you're going to do that. That's why I would say play both. Thoughts, Vince? Do you agree?
It's a fine line you're walking, obviously, trying to play three quarterbacks. You know what I mean? But I would not have a problem with it. I had that thought myself sitting alone in my basement watching the game today after I came to grips with the fact that this is going to be a loss and they're not playing for New Year's Six anymore. It's like, you know, what's the discussion going to be like when it comes to quarterback at this point? You know, I think it's a valid, legitimate conversation that needs to be had.
Last one, Vince.
Spark 5219. My apologies for ragging on Sam. That more Johnny Walker talking than me. That's fair. 70 plus years and only 4 national championships. This old man gets a little frustrated. I love Marcus Freeman. He will get the job done. A little positive spin at the end there. I like it, Spark.
And Spark, I feel you, man. Trust me. If I would have got on this post-game show as soon as you guys did, I would have been not pleasant.
And that's without the JW.
Yeah. Yep. Not pleasant.
Yeah. And I get it. I get it, guys. It's frustrating. And I told this story before when Brian and I were at practice in the fall and we're walking out and Marcus Freeman was talking to the troops and you know, he's a really, really good speaker. We all can agree on that. And you leaned over to me and you said, man, I hope he's the one. Like, I hope he gets the job done because we all like Marcus Freeman. We all think he's a good man. We all want him to be successful. There's no doubt about it. I do. I know I do. I want him to be successful. The jury's still out, frankly. And I'm not ready. I'm not on the fire Freeman bandwagon. That's for darn sure. But the jury's still out because we still need to see incremental steps. And maybe we were expecting more of a step than what we are getting. Yes. And maybe that wasn't fair. I think it was. But at the end of the day, the jury's still out on whether he's the guy or not. We're not firing the head coach after year and a half.
I'm at the point now where he needs to make some changes and I'm evaluating what those changes are. And I don't even mean changes like coaching change. That's such an easy out.
Right. Exactly.
Like firing Jared Parker and whoever else you want to fire doesn't change the way this football team prepares for road games because that's determined by the head football coach. He's got to fix that. He's got to fix that.
And the offensive philosophy. That doesn't mean you have to go get a new offensive coordinator, but I think the offensive philosophy has to be under a microscope. Like it's not working.
But who sets it? Because it's
That's
looked the same 2 years in a row. Whether it's Drew Pine, Tyler Buckner, or Sam Hartman, a quarterback.
Agreed.
And two different offensive coordinators. What's been the one and two different offensive line coaches and all? What's the one common
denominator? It's exactly right.
Coach,
which is. I'm saying his offensive philosophy needs to be under the microscope.
Right.
Like you need to decide who you want to be. Because if you want to be this guy, if this is the guy you want to be offensively as a head coach, you're not going to win a national championship. It's not going to happen. And you're probably not going to be the head coach of Notre Dame for a long period of time.
Right. Yep. This is the last one, Vince. They just threw this one in there. So it's pretty funny.
Go Irish. Say Books.
Yeah, that's the flower place subscription.
Oh, Books
like bouquets.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Book's co-founders are Notre Dame grads.
I did not know
I
that.
was gonna say, did you know that? Okay.
Had no clue, but I'm just saying, like, you know what, guys, if you're listening, and they're probably not, but like, hook me up. I actually use your subscription service. I'll, let me know.
Don't hook him
I'll
up.
get
He's
you-
already
I'll
paying.
get you
Hook me
guys
up.
connected with Blue Wire. We'll have you guys do some ads for the show. We'll hook you guys up, man. But because we normally do pretty well with that kind of stuff. So we got Factor coming back on this next week. I
true.
mean, it's going to be good. So if the Books, anyone knows the Books co-founders, if they're still there, like, hook me up. I mean, help or reach out to me, man. We'll promote your stuff if you're Notre Dame grads, because I actually use their service and it's actually really good. And they always have tulips, which my wife thought was going to be hard to find. She's a tulip person, and so I got her some tulips this last time, which she was not expecting to get because it's winter. They usually don't have those in winter. Yeah, but no, I had no idea. I had no idea.
That's awesome.
That's
I like
pretty
that.
funny. Yep.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the post-game show, folks. I can't handle much more after
we're
watching
done.
that game. We got 3.5 hour game, 3.5 hour post-game show. It's time to put this one to bed, folks. And but not completely, because we've got our Upon Further Review, I'm guessing, coming up in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
But
I'll be home by 3 tomorrow, Vince. So I still plan on us doing that.
Okay. Make sure you hit that like
Tomorrow.
button, the subscribe button, hit that notification bell just in case something changes. All right. And make sure you share with your family and friends. Give us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. Hey, man, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. This is our therapy session. There's no doubt about it. You're allowed to be mad. 24-hour rule. We're coming back, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna watch the film. We're gonna see where it all went wrong, even though I got a pretty good idea at this point. But check us out, folks. We're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow as well. And then we're into a bye week where you never know what's going to come your way during a bye week, folks. So that's going to do it for us. So for Brian, I'm Vince. Brian, have a safe trip home. We will see you when you get back to Northern Indiana, my friend.
Yeah, sounds good,
and
man.
We will talk to everyone tomorrow Upon Further Review. So we'll see you then.